Hey everybody, and welcome to another edition of Stephen's Kingdom. And I'm getting my feet wrapped up in something under my desk because that's just what I do. Um, Tonight we're only going to be covering a couple of films tonight. Um, The Mist and 1408. Because the other one on my list was Dolan's Cadillac, which unfortunately I have not seen yet and wanted to, I don't want to come on here and sound like I'm talking out my butt about these movies. I want to actually have seen it first before I start talking about it, which only makes sense. So it's only available to buy or rent. So I thought, well, I won't push myself. This is all part of me trying to tone it down a little bit and give myself some relaxation time. So I thought I'm not going to push it. I could have went on and rented it and watched it, but I thought, nah, we'll just cover a couple of them tonight and call it good. But let's see who we got in here. And it looks like I'm going to have Chris on here with me as well, which is always awesome to have Chris and or Candace. I love to have them both, but I know sometimes Candace has other things that she needs to do in the evenings and sometimes Chris has things he's got to do in the evenings that prevents him from being on. But hey, Batman. Hey, Blissful. You want me to stop huffing essential oils, Blissful? My hands smell like honeysuckle because my neighbor actually bought the Henrietta honeysuckle candle. She bought one from me, so I had to get one made up real quick so I could take it over to her, uh, and made me a little cash. So that's always good. Hey, Blair. So it looks like we got about 6 people in here. And what I'm actually going to do here in just a second, maybe when Chris can take over the reins a little bit, I have not really had any supper or dinner, whatever you call it. So I'm trying to get situated with getting me something delivered, something in Lon John Silver's land is what I'm thinking. So uh, I may try to finish that up. Um, Blizzle, you texted Wayne. Is he interested in coming on again? But anyway, I'm going to go ahead and add Chris on here real quick. Hey, Chris.
Hey, I'm still trying to get my camera adjusted here. I couldn't use Noah's computer this evening today, so I'm having to use my phone.
Oh, well, that works. That works for me. You got a Metallica shirt on tonight.
Yeah, Master Puppets.
So, have you seen both of the movies we're going to talk about,
Oh yeah,
Chris? Okay.
yeah,
Um,
I have.
have you seen Dolan's Cadillac? Because I'm not
No,
covering that one tonight, but hopefully by next week I will have seen Dolan's Cadillac and I'll be able to more appropriately talk about it.
yep. Yeah, I don't actually even remember that one. Um,
I know it has Christian Slater on it playing the bad guy.
hmm. Yeah, I've not seen that one. I don't believe.
I mean, the story was really good. The short story.
Hmm.
This is
See,
based.
I've not even read the short story of that.
It's kind of like a revenge scenario. Basically, this mobster kills this guy's wife, and he wants to
Mm.
get revenge on him. So, and it's very creative how he gets his revenge. I'll just leave it at that. Um, Ooh, spaghetti tacos, Batman. That does sound good. But I'm really hungry right now, so anything's going to sound good to me, I think. Um, so I haven't yet. We'll start with 1408. This is the DVD, and this is, I guess, the deluxe package because it's like really super heavy. I'd
So
forgotten how
does
heavy it was.
does it have all like the alternate endings?
Yeah, I
Um,
think so extended director's cut with alternate
mhm.
ending.
And I that's one of the things I do love about this movie is that it has all these alternate endings to it, and out of the two that we're talking about tonight, this 1408 is probably my favorite of the two.
Now, I will
Um,
say that The Mist is very controversial with fans. Very,
well, at least the ending of it, yeah. I
yeah.
mean, I really like The Mist up until the very end of the film.
Mhm.
It's to me the ending of The Mist is one of the worst endings in any movie I've ever seen.
Well, the thing is, they didn't have to go that route with it, but we'll get to that one here in
Mhm.
just a little bit. I actually ended up getting the 4K of it. Believe it or not, people are probably saying, "Oh my god, why'd you get the 4K of it?" Uh,
It's a great movie. I mean, and I'm sure that 4K looks great. But like I said, just we'll get into that. But that end of the movie is just like no, no. I mean, I wish they went a different route with that. But
but the thing about I love 1408 because 1408 is like I don't want to say a discount. It's like a Reader's Digest condensed version of The Shining. That's what
yeah,
I think of when I think of 1408. And that's not saying it's a bad movie. It's just saying I feel like it's a shortened version of what The Shining was. A little bit shortened version.
in a way, yeah, I can see that for sure. But the whole movie to me, 1408, reminds me of like a Twilight Zone episode. Um,
Yeah, that
where he's just everything the insides of this room just kind of remains in its own like dimension
right.
because of all the things that are going on throughout the film. um, it's as if it exists outside of time and space.
Mhm. You are
And
exactly right on that, and I hadn't thought about that in a while, but when you brought that up, I was like, yeah, it is like you're not really sure what dimension. It's like it's I hate to say this, but it's almost like being on drugs or something when you're watching this movie.
yeah, it's like that too. I mean, you can kind of it's like an acid trip or something, I guess you could
Yeah,
say.
exactly.
Um, but like the reason why I thought it was like a Twilight Zone episode is because there is a Twilight Zone episode where this guy in this his like bedroom or whatever, he had his bed is pushed up against this wall, and
Yeah,
there's a dog that like goes underneath the bed and then like it disappears. And then
yeah,
he's like, where did that dog go? And then like he realizes there's like a portal to another dimension, like underneath that bed.
mm,
And that's almost kind of like how this is. Like, it's because once you're in the room, you know, he's open to all of these crazy like paranormal things and stuff going on. With it kind of like just repeating itself a lot of the times of the events that he has to go through. And I'm not really even sure. I can't remember how long he's even in there. It's like a day or two, right?
yeah. I think it's like it seems a lot longer, but I believe you're right. It's kind of
Mhm.
like it's it's kind of like shoot. Is it 11/22/63? I want to say it's like that sort of
Mhm.
because you could you step in and out of the past and it seems like you're there for 5 years in the past and you
Yeah.
come back to the present and you've been gone 20 minutes. And it's just so weird the way that the time works in
And
these types of stories.
I really like, noticed that in a lot of these Stephen King stories, it's the main character is a writer.
Yes,
And like this one and The Shining and Secret Window and just, a lot of stuff that he's put out. It all revolves around a writer. And so I see that as Stephen King's putting aspects of himself into these
yes.
stories.
Yeah, it's a lot of these are an extension of a lot of times what was going on in Stephen King's life, not the supernatural stuff necessarily or anything like that, but just what were the fears that he had at the time that he wrote the story, or um, what was going on with him financially, what was going on
Mhm.
between him and his kids, him and his wife. And
Right.
they tend to, his personal demons with alcohol and drugs, they work
Mhm.
themselves into the stories as well.
Yeah, and I've noticed that like a lot of those stories that I mentioned just a few minutes ago, like Secret Window and The Shining, that's those are they're writers, and they also have like relationship problems. And it seems like they're almost some, not every time, but some of the times there's children involved as well. Like The Shining, they have Danny as and I don't. There's no children involved in Secret Window, but with this one, so John Cusack's character and his wife, I guess they're like going through a divorce, and they lost a child, and a lot of that plays into the story while he's in the hotel room, and it's probably one of the most messed up scenes in the entire movie.
Mhm.
When if you know the one I'm talking about, when he's having to relive that
Yeah,
moment where his child passed away, and then like he's holding them in his arms, and then they just kind of like deteriorate into like dust and bones. It's
yeah, it's very,
very, very wild.
very hard to watch. Not only, I mean, it's especially hard to watch if you're a parent, but it's still hard to watch for anybody that has a soul, that has a heart, that has emotions. And I think that's 99.9% of us. There's probably a uh 1% that don't, but we don't talk about those people in here. But the majority of the population is, it's just going to be heartbreaking to see something like that, even though it's a film. When it's over that those people just got up and left the set, or wherever they were filming, and that they're all okay. Now, I've got to talk about Mr. John Cusack, though. I
Yeah.
love that man. Now, I have heard that John Cusack can be an asshole. Now,
Yeah.
I have never met John Cusack. I was planning on going to see him talk about the movie Say Anything. They were going to screen Say Anything, and then he was going to talk before
Hmm.
and after the film. And I was really looking forward to it. I got good seats at the Palace here in Louisville,
Yeah.
and he canceled. And they said, well, we're going to
Mhm.
reschedule it. Well, then I guess he canceled again, and they just refunded everybody's money. So, I mean, I got my money
Mm.
back from
Yeah,
the.
I know that he's done that with convent. And I was going to mention, by the way, before, see Uncle Bill's in the chat. He was asking if there's room for one more on here.
Yes, sir. I was getting ready to ask if you wanted to come on here. Chris, you go ahead. I'm just going to put the link in there for Uncle Bill
Okay.
here.
But yeah, I know that he's done, convention appearances and stuff in the past, and there's been some times where he's canceled several times. But of the ones that I do know that he has appeared at, I've never met him personally. I love John Hughes. I love his movies though.
Yeah.
Um, and one of my favorites is is High Fidelity. That's probably my favorite
Oh,
John
high
Cusack.
fidelity.
That's
Sometimes
probably my favorite.
I have had a watch along for high fidelity, but
Mm-hmm.
remember when I said if we wait long enough, I could have another one?
Mm-hmm.
I would love to have you on for high fidelity,
Yeah,
Chris.
that's my favorite John Cusack film, and a lot of what happens in that movie, I'm gonna go off the beaten path and and ramble here like I always do,
Okay.
but it was very inspiring because I loved it. You know, he worked at a record store, and he would like, you know, he would have a top five list
Yeah.
for like everything. And I saw that movie many years ago, and that's when like I started making lists of things that were my favorites after
That's
seeing
cool.
that. And yeah, I really love that one, and Better Off Dead are my two main favorites of his films. Um, but um, but yeah, like he does conventions and stuff. I've never met him personally, but
Mhm.
I know people that have met him, and they always say that yeah, he's kind of a jerk. You know, he's not very personable. He's very like, you know, just kind of dismisses a lot of stuff that people were trying to talk to him about and stuff, and he just kind of just wants people to so he can just sign and have them go on. But he may just not be like a people person. Maybe he's not trying to be a jerk or an asshole or anything like that.
That's how it
Maybe
comes off.
maybe he's just kind of backwards, you know, like in his personal life, and you know, he just like. I mean, I get that's what he's there for, is to meet these fans and everything, and you know, but it might be just a money thing too for him. You know, you never know.
Yeah, you never really know with some people. And there's Uncle Bill, by the way. I'm going to go ahead and add Uncle Bill here. Hey, Uncle Bill.
Yes.
Howdy.
I'm just glad to hear somebody bring up High Fidelity because nobody ever brings that movie
I
up.
know nobody brings that movie up, and that has a great Evil Dead 2 sequence in it too, where they're talking about the movie Evil Dead 2.
Yeah, that's right.
It
I kind
does.
of
I didn't even think about that, but you're right. But it's probably like Crater was saying, like it's probably my favorite John Cusack movie as well.
yeah.
Um, and Savannah is like a huge mark for him. So
I
like,
thought she was, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
So 1408, I've seen like a million times.
yeah, I love that's I really love that movie. I think I mean even though their scenes are kind of limited together, but I thought him and Samuel L. Jackson had really good chemistry in that one.
I thought so too, yeah. And that's the other person we should talk about. He's the other big uh, part of this movie is Samuel L. Jackson's character in this. And
Mhm.
what do you guys both think of? Do you, if you were to rate this as a supernatural movie on a 1 to 10 scale, where would you rate that?
Mm. Maybe a seven, 6 or a 7.
I would have
It's,
given it like
it's pretty, I like it a lot. You know, it's not like my favorite paranormal
Yeah.
or supernatural type film, but yeah, it's up there for sure. I've watched it several times.
Hmm.
I'd give it like a 7 or an 8. I mean, there's a lot of scenes in this movie that like have always stayed with me, and I think that that's a good indicator of like how good a movie is. If I can remember, like a majority of the scenes, it's pretty good. And
Right.
the shit with the alarm clock going off and it playing "We've Only Just Begun" by the Carpenters
Yeah,
like over and over again, and then the scene where, like you were saying, where he has the whatever that is, where the room makes him think that like he's with his daughter, and then he wakes up and like he's holding that. That's just fucking just that always gets me. Um,
yeah, me too. Even before I even had any kids, that movie was like really tough to watch. That scene at least. And then after Noah was born, there for several years I couldn't watch anything that had like kids getting killed and stuff in it, like Pet Cemetery. It took me forever to watch Pet Cemetery again after Noah was born, and I was like, man, it
after
just I
you
don't know.
after you have kids, those kind of movies take on a whole different like
Yeah,
meaning.
for real.
Like you watch them again and it hits you a completely different way.
Yeah, that
Um,
they even bother me, and I don't even I don't have any human kids. I have furry kids, but
Yeah,
But
I
his
mean, just,
father's
even if you have any kind of compassion, for anything like that, even if you don't have kids, I mean, it's a human thing, Like,
Oh
I mean,
yeah.
if you don't, if even if you don't have kids, and if you don't feel anything when you see stuff like, I mean, you got something bad wrong with you.
But so I don't know how much you guys have talked about it already, but like
just on a
Just
surface
started.
level, I would say, yeah.
so like I did hear Crater saying something about the fact that King always uses like riders like as
Mhm.
the main character, and that's a big part of this is like he's like this burnout kind of ghost rider guy that's and I think that's a pretty good like uh character for the to push this plot forward where he doesn't believe in any of this stuff and like he's just kind of doing it all on a whim to kind of keep going and make money and stuff. And this place that proves him wrong basically. And like there's so many good sequences like where like just the ghost sequences in it where he's looking out the window and he sees like the other side and it's him like looking through
Yeah,
the other window and like just so many trippy like scenes in this movie. And I always really, really like because it's one of those movies. I like movies a lot of times that take place in like one spot like that too, where the
Yeah.
whole of the movie takes place in that hotel room, basically.
mhm.
So like the main part of it anyway. And a lot of the really cool stuff is just something that's based around that room and something that happens in that room. And then you get the fact that like it has multiple different endings. And I saw
Oh my
one at
god.
one time and then saw another at another time and forgot that like they they were completely different. You know what I
They
mean?
are,
Like,
yeah, they're very different. Like, you have the one at the end where Samuel Jackson is at the
yeah,
he's at a funeral, and he
yeah,
sees what's in his back seat, and then there's another one that just cuts back is where he's listened to the recording that he
yeah,
made in the hotel room, and that one's probably my favorite ending of all of them. When he like finally sees like his wife or ex-wife or whatever she was, to like she didn't believe him, like he just thought he was
yeah.
crazy, but then she hears the recording as well, and I thought that was a great ending.
Yeah, I think that's probably my favorite of those. But they're all pretty amazing. And
I think the first one that I saw, uh, I'm not sure if this is the same in all of them or not, but like I think I think it is up to a point. But the one that I saw that killed me was like the one where he's and like fuck if you ain't seen 1408, you need to go watch it anyway. It's
yes,
the one where he's out of the hotel room and he's like living a regular life or whatever, and he goes into like a post office and then like he's looking around and everything like goes back to the hotel room and
yeah,
he's back in the hotel. So he thinks he's out and like for like 10, 15 minutes, it goes through like he's out of the hotel room. And like, and then you find out like it's just the hotel room fucking with him. He's actually
Yeah,
been in there the whole time.
yeah.
And like that killed me. I mean, I was like, there ain't no way. Like, and he doesn't get out of it in that one either, by the way.
I forgot about that one actually because I think that was probably my least favorite out of all the endings.
Well, that's the most like emotionally damaging of all of them because
Yeah.
like you're with him there, like thinking that it's over with and like that it's something's gonna happen, like, and then you find out he's just fucking still stuck in the
Yeah.
hotel room.
Yeah, and you were talking about like how everything is shot in this. And that's something I'm really a big fan of is just how things are kind of they think outside the box when they do the cinematography. I mean, I don't know who the cinematographer was on this on 1408, but I thought just a lot of the visuals are awesome, especially when it starts getting to that kind of trippy, like it starts like a storm starts coming inside the hotel room,
Yeah,
and he just
yeah,
sees like the painting on the wall, and like everything is moving inside the painting, and that stuff is just great to me.
yeah. The painting comes to life, like it's just like a sailboat or something, and you start seeing it. Like, yeah,
I'm
there's a
not familiar with the director of photography. It's Benoit Del Home or something like that. It sounds like it's French. The guy's name
Mm.
is French.
it's Chris Benoit. He's the director. I'm just kidding. Uh, whoever it was amazing. Like I'll say
Mhm.
that. Like I mean, it's I like John Cusack up to a point, I guess. Like a lot of the later stuff, he seemed like he'd been kind of sleepwalking through it, to me anyway. But
Yeah,
like
it's
his
kinda
early stuff is great.
it's fantastic. I mean, I'm a huge, huge fan of John Cusack, but the way people talk about him, I don't know if I'd ever wanna meet him if I got a chance to meet him
Yeah,
or
it's tough sometimes, like I've met a lot of these people that from movies and stuff at these conventions, much like you guys have too. And sometimes they're good experiences, sometimes they're not. I've like my worst experience, was with Edward Furlong,
Mm,
and I've had people say, "Well, when you met him, that was during a bad time in his life. He was, all on drugs and all this stuff like that." And said, "So you should try to give him another chance because he's different now." And but I don't know because that experience I had with him was so bad that
mm.
I'm like, I don't know if I could ever give that guy time of day again.
I've said this before. I have never really had a bad experience. The only things I've had is underwhelming experiences.
Mhm.
I met Tom Savini and he was just fine with me. He might have been a little reserved, I guess.
Yeah.
But he
He's
didn't
not
act
super
like
talkative.
no. I will say that about him, but he didn't act like an asshole to me. I'll say that.
Yeah.
He didn't act like I was bothering him. He just didn't have a whole lot to say.
Uh, I was gonna say, like Chris's story about like what happened with him and Furlong and what people say about him is basically the same as mine and Savini. Like I've heard a bunch of people say, well, when I met Savini, he was great. But then I've also heard a bunch of other people say, well, when I met Savini, it was basically the same experience you had. So I don't know. Like I think at some point he became self-aware, like because so many people were saying they had bad experiences with him that he was kind of like, I better probably like try to do something because it's costing me money. But
Didn't
yeah,
Fel
I don't think he changed. I
did
don't think.
didn't Felsher tell him something during one of those like documentaries or interviews or something? I forgot what disc it was on. Um, but I thought Felsher just made it known that hey, people are saying you're an asshole.
He definitely told him that because like there was the whole thing where he went up to him and was like he told him the story about my experience with him that way he could like trick me and pull the shit on me that he did the second
Yeah,
time that I met him.
exactly.
So he knew, at least he knew like of his reputation. I don't know how much he cares. The guy's like what, 76 years old or something like that at this point.
Something like that.
I don't know how much he gives a shit about what his reputation is right now. And I honestly, if you think about it, like how many conventions has that guy been to? And like you can only tell like so many stories about Dawn of the Dead and Maniac and the
Yeah.
Prowler and shit
Well,
like that before
see
you
that
probably want to kill somebody.
that's what I did when I went up to him. I just made a point to keep it short and sweet and to the point because I told Steve, I was like, this guy has had to have heard every story about Friday the 13th, Dawn of the Dead, Maniac, whatever he worked on. I'm sure he's heard it all. So I just basically went up and told him it was nice to meet him, got him to sign something, told him that he inspired me, like creatively, he inspired me. I said, basically, you and Dick Smith and your effects work inspired me. And
Mhm.
he acted like he appreciated that. Now, whether he really did or not, I don't know, but at least he wasn't mean to me.
I've met him a couple different times, and the second time I ever met him, like I didn't really like even talk to him about anything. I just got my stuff signed and took a picture with him, went on because that first time I met him, like it wasn't really like a bad experience or anything, but like I said, he's just not super talkative, and he wasn't really like he was just kind of giving me short answers. Like I talked to him about the first time I met him, I talked to him about the Night of the Living Dead remake, and he was just like, "Yeah, it's all right." And I'm like, I
Yeah,
was like, "Wow." I was like, "I
it's
love it,
okay.
man." And he's just going, "Yeah, yeah," and he's just nodding and stuff. And I'm like, so I tried to just change the subject, and I was trying to talk to him about like Lon Chaney and stuff. And I know that was kind of his inspiration for getting into makeup effects and all that. He's like, "Yeah, I got a son in Lon." And I'm like,
Mm.
yeah, that's cool. And then I was like, well, I said, what was there any like main inspiration, like any of his films that you really, took from more than the other? And he was like, not really. And that
Yeah.
was it. I mean,
That's I'd say it's taken me a bunch of going to these shows to figure out one very important thing. When you go to a convention, you really need to have like low expectations when you meet
Yeah,
people
yeah,
because it's not a lot of the time it's going to be a very short encounter. It's going to be very similar to that where it's like you're not going to get a whole lot of like whatever you think you get out of it. Like you're probably not. It's probably going to
but
be very
it's not always like that. Now, I've had
no, it's not
some
always.
really surprising, like I've because with all of my expectation with anybody that I meet is that whatever I ask them or whatever I'm talking about, they're just going to just kind of give me a short answer, and then just like send me on my way or whatever. But I've had some people like really go into big elaborate stories, and I'll stand there maybe 5 minutes or more talking to them. But and Sam Raimi, which I didn't spend, it was close to 5 minutes I had with Sam Raimi when I met him at this past 4 round,
mm,
and I didn't really want to ask him anything like Evil Dead related because I'm sure he's been asked friggin' everything about that. So my question to him was how did he get involved with Macho Man Randy Savage when he was doing the first Spider-Man film?
mm.
And he just said that, well, he just basically looked at the original comic of Spider-Man and how when he's involved in wrestling at the beginning when he gets his powers, and he said that he wanted just to reach out to one of the biggest names in professional wrestling to have it in that role when he was making the film, and he said one of the first names he thought of was Macho Man. So, like he said, then when he reached out through his people to try to get him interested in the film, he said that Macho Man was like immediately
I would
interested
imagine.
because he was a fan of Sam Raimi's films. So I thought that was really cool.
That's a killer image to think about Macho Man sitting there watching the Evil Dead.
This is a
Yeah, I
good.
love that, man. I love that answer that he gave me.
Well, I didn't really. I don't think I asked Sam Raimi anything about any of the movies, uh,
Hmm.
Yeah, I
because
didn't.
again, I figured that he had heard, everything by now. And so I just, told him it was nice to meet him and I loved all his films and stuff. Well, not really, but I'm not going to get up there and say I didn't like Drag Me to Hell, Sam Raimi, or
You should have said that. Just see what he said. Like,
no.
that movie was shit.
But it was so surreal. It was surreal when and after I met him and when we were in the vehicle going home, I looked at Steve and I said, I just met Sam Raimi, Steve. And of course, Steve's like, "Yeah, Dana, I know you met him." And but the one thing I do remember above anything else is that Sam Raimi looked at me when I said, "It's nice to meet you, Mr. Raimi," and he said, "I love the way you say things," which I took to mean he liked my accent, But that was the sweetest thing. That and William Cat called me doll when I met him. Now he could have called 1,000 women doll that weekend, but it made me feel special for, you
Yeah,
know.
you can't look at it like that. Though. You just gotta keep in your mind like, well, maybe he's just having that kind of interaction with me, and don't worry about anybody else.
No, because he called me doll too. He was like, "Hey, doll."
Did you meet William Cat?
Yeah, I met him. He called me doll. No, I'm just kidding.
William Cat is a really cool guy though, because I met him like years ago when I first started doing convention. He was probably one of the first people I ever met at a convention, and it was just it was one of them types of times where like stuff was cheaper at these conventions, autographs. You get free pictures with everybody when you get an autograph, and I always talk to Candace about this because like when that first time I met William Cat, because I said this will never happen ever again because of just how times have changed with conventions. But I went to meet him, and I had initially brought my House DVD with me to have him sign. And then once I got to his table, I kind of changed my mind because I started seeing all these really cool pictures from House that he had on his table. So I just got an 8x10 signed by him. And then I was talking with him about like House and Greatest American Hero and stuff like that. And and then I was getting ready to leave after I took my picture with him and everything, he noticed that I was holding that House DVD. And he's like, "Here, let me see that." And he just took it and took the sleeve out and signed it and didn't charge me for it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, now I fast forward to now, I look at stuff like that. I'm like, that'll never ever happen again.
No, if
Well,
anything, he would have nowadays. He'd probably grab it and sign it and charge you another $25 and $40 on. Give it to me, it's stupid.
now
No,
now Felissa Rose, she like the first time I met her, she gave
oh
me
my
an
god.
extra free autograph. I love that woman.
Listen, like that's probably like I've said this before, I'm sure, but that's probably the nicest woman that ever does conventions. That's probably one of the
Yeah,
nicest people that
Mhm.
ever does conventions, to be honest.
Yes.
without a doubt. I mean, she has to be because like she's very personable with every single person that she meets. And it don't matter if she don't have to know you, but the way she comes across, it's as if she does know you because
Yeah.
it's so
Yeah.
personal with her interactions.
But the thing about Raimi though that I was thinking is if Raimi can be that cool with people, because I think we all three had good experiences with him,
Yeah.
then there ain't no fucking excuse for somebody like Tom Savini or Edward Furlong or somebody like that. Like if somebody that's directed some of the biggest movies of all time and like made hundreds of millions of dollars can do that, then like there's no reason these other people can't.
You know, back years ago when I first started getting in conventions, I was learning about Tom Savini's school and everything. Thanks, son. Um, but and me and Justin was hanging out all the time, and we were talking about there for the longest time. We were talking about moving up to Pittsburgh and going to Tom Savini's school. Um, and I don't know that I'm kind of glad things worked out the way it did because I don't know if I've been cut out for that, honestly.
I wanted to go to Savini school too because I was really big into special makeup effects, and I don't have an artistic bone in my body, guys and gals. But I wanted to do that at one time, and I
Mhm.
I got to tell my Dick Smith story again. This is one of the greatest regrets I have in my life, and I think Uncle Bill has probably heard me tell this story. But back when I was writing to people and getting autographs and stuff like that, I kind of did what Uncle Bill and CK did. You could write to people, and there's Candace, and you could, if you paid the postage, they would sign whatever for you. They'd sign a picture and send it back in the mail. But I wrote to Dick Smith, and I was telling him how much I respected his makeup effects and all the work he had done. And I wanted to kind of do an interview with him. And he gave me his phone number, guys.
Oh wow!
Mm-hmm.
He sent me a letter back and he said, "Hey, call me anytime and we'll discuss this." And I could not get up enough courage. I was like, this is Dick Smith.
Oh no! Damn it!
Man. And God knows where the letter's at now. It might be at my parents' house still. I'm sure I kept the letter, but one of my
What year
greatest,
was that?
oh God, I'm trying to think what it was way before I met all of you guys. So yeah, I can't remember.
Early 2000s or 90s or
It's
something.
it's it's possible that it was early 2000s when I did that.
That's really cool though.
Mhm. But I wish I'd had the courage to call the man. He sent me his dang phone number. How many people are going to send you their phone number? So,
Candace was telling me
True.
something really cool. Is that you can go to Stan Winston's school online now. Like you
ah,
Hmm.
don't even have to go to like an in-person school. He has these classes that you can, enroll in online and learn how to do that stuff. So I don't know. It's something to think about if you got any kind of artistic talent for sure.
I don't. I
TJ,
don't. So that would have been really bad.
I think
If I,
TJ's getting on me for calling myself not artistic. I might be a little bit creative, TJ, but I'm not artistic to save my life. So
Um, TJ also says he mentioned PJ Souls and Felissa Rose are the nicest at cons. PJ Souls is very nice, but I still don't think she's got Felissa Rose beat in
no, I
being
don't think
there.
anybody does really.
Felissa Rose seems like she will never get tired of meeting fans at
You
these
know,
conventions.
the funny thing about that too, she's always got a damn line, and I think it's mostly because of that. I think it's like because like people they're not intimidated at all to meet her because like the way she is.
Well, it's a guaranteed thing for that people when they come they want to be treated well by these celebrities and everything, and with her having that kind of reputation, they're like, well, if I want to have any kind of one good experience today, it's definitely going to be with her. And
That's true, yeah.
I think that's where I actually ran into you at Scarefest. You all were in her line, and her line was massive.
Yeah. Yeah, we were like, it was one of those ones that they carton like there's rows to it. It had like 4 rows, and you kind of like in it. And that was actually a funny part of that story. So we're in that line, and Tom Savini's on the other side of her table. Like she's on this side, and Savini's on the other side, like on the opposite wall, like where the curtain thing is that divides them and everything. So I'm standing in that line, and I was just watching Savini just to see like if he's still like how he was with other people and stuff. While I was waiting on the Felissa Rose thing, and he was just doing the same shit, man. Like he had fucking scarf on and shit, and people would walk up to him, and he would like be looking down, and they would hand him stuff, and he'd never look up. He'd just sign it, hand it back to them. If they tried to say, they didn't really try to say anything because he was just he never like looked at him or acknowledged him or anything like that.
He's getting grumpier and grumpier as he gets older.
Yeah,
That
when
just
somebody's
sounds
wearing a
like
scarf, it's not good.
a robot or something. Just sign it, hand it to you.
He just typed it out like Stephen Hawking, and it just play back in a robotic voice.
Yeah.
It's not really Tom Savini. It's AI Tom Savini that's there.
But to circle back around to what we were talking about before, I don't think I would meet John Cusack at a fucking convention because, like, I don't know. I just feel like that, like, I like him enough to where I don't want to have a bad experience with him.
Right. Yeah, I think that's where I'm at too.
Yeah, especially not now. I don't think I could because it's untelling how much he charges at these now. Which that reminds me, Dana. So I was looking into some stuff today about Robert Englund because where he's going to be at the next Horror Hound.
Yep.
So the last time that we seen him, which was last August in the Indianapolis Horror Hound, and I wanted to get a photo up with me because my son went to that one with me, and so I got a picture of me and my brother-in-law and Noah all together with Robert Englund. And it's really expensive, the photo op. It was $145 plus tax.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I just seen he's going to be at the upcoming Monster Mania, and they got his photo ops up for that, and he's increased the price yet again. It's $155 plus tax now.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't know as far as like when it comes to his autograph, what he's charging for that now. Last time I heard it was like $125 or something. But it's just getting crazy and crazier with any of these people at these conventions. And so I mean, to me, I don't know about you all, but I feel like John Cusack is a bigger name than Robert Englund.
In the grand scheme of things, probably so.
Yeah, because people want to know Robert Englund is Freddy Krueger because Freddy Krueger is a part of pop culture. But like overall, like if you look at the wide range of like films and stuff that both those guys have done, especially John Cusack when he's part of like those kind of Brat Pack type films in the '80s. I think he's more. So it's untelling really what he would charge now. But also if I'm paying a lot of money for that, I don't want somebody to be a jerk to me.
Well, yeah, that's exactly
Well,
right.
what would probably happen is you'd pay, you know, $200-300 for an autograph, whatever, and you'd probably get 10 seconds or something because they'd be moving somebody you know, else along, and so you'd probably get to say, you know, hi, I like your work, and be like, thank you, and that'd be it. You know what I mean? It'd be something akin to that.
Yeah.
Right.
That would be my, you know, in my imagination. Like I don't think that they would let you stand there and talk to him
But you
face
don't
time.
never know, I guess, too, because you know we all three of us got to meet Jamie Lee Curtis at that show she did back in 2012, and she was pretty talkative, especially you know of an actress
Well,
of her
except for what
stature.
happened to me, the guy dropped his posters all over
Oh
the
yeah,
stage, and she was totally distracted by that. So I was next in line after that guy. So it wasn't Jamie Lee Curtis's fault. It was just what happened, and so I had a less than amazing experience because that happened. And I'm not really blaming the guy either. It was just bad luck there.
right. Yeah, I noticed when she was at that show. And sorry, I'm getting such off the beaten path from talking about these
Okay.
films, Dana. um, I noticed was watching like people in that room, like as was going up to meet her at that show, and she, you know, a lot of people had a lot of different items, but I think the most like obscure item I seen somebody taking up to have her sign, because I remember like when the guy got up there, she like holds it up and like announces it to everybody. Um, the movie she was in called Virus, they
Oh
made
yeah.
an they made an action figure line of that, and I think that was like her first action figure that they ever made. And he had her. So I was like, man, that's a very different item to get signed, but very crappy movie.
It's an awful movie, yeah.
Yeah.
I thought she was cool. I mean, Jamie Lee Curtis, when I met her, like she was really cool. Like when we first met her was for the, you know, photo op and everything, and it just kind of like freaked her out, as clearly evidenced
I
by that
love that
picture.
picture though.
But when we actually met her and everybody was sitting in that room, you know how it was. Like there's that they had basically a whole fucking room just dedicated to people waiting to get her autograph. And when we got up there and everything, Sean Clark was there too, and it was good. I mean, I remember that being a good experience, and like her not
That was
being,
such a that was a cool way they had that set up too,
yeah,
because they kind of they snap like you had to sit down in these chairs and stuff, and then like as the line would move on, like you had to just like switch
Yeah,
from seat to seat to seat
yeah.
and snake around. And I thought that they had that set up really well for what it was, but you know that was also at that time it was before horror conventions, and I guess you could say would get into the mainstream of things and would start attracting all these other types of people to come to these shows. Because you know nowadays, like you have people that aren't necessarily die-hard horror fans that come to these shows.
no, they're
It's
not.
just anybody comes. I mean, you and there a lot of and there's a huge group of people that comes to these shows now that and this kind of didn't start happening until after COVID and everything, because during COVID, people were like doing through the mail autographs and stuff and taking those and putting them on eBay. And I think a lot of people still do that. It's a whole group of people that come to these conventions now that just see it as a business. And they go in there and they get these autographs from people, and then they get them certified by
Well,
Beckett or
who is buying these fucking at this point? Like, how could you get any money out of Kane Hodder's autograph on eBay? Like, you know
Well,
what I
yeah,
mean? Like,
people like that, I don't think it's going. You're going to do a lot of success with, but you know, I think a lot of these people just kind of focus on the bigger names that come to these shows now, like Robert Englund. I mean, these shows that guy's done. I mean, he's still like a people. I see. I'm in part of these autograph groups and stuff on Facebook. So if see people paying for his like all the time, like crazy money for that stuff.
I can't imagine. I mean, because it just keeps going up. Like you were saying, like his
Mhm.
autograph price. I don't understand how anybody at this point, you know, from a seller's perspective, could make any kind of profit off of a damn Robert Englund autograph because he charges so damn much. And like, then you got to factor in gas and time and waiting in line if you're trying to, you know, get it that way. I don't know. Um,
I
but
just want to meet the man. That's all.
well, that's the thing. Like you know, that kind of shit really does kind of have an effect on people like us that really just want to meet these people. Like, we don't have any intention of selling these autographs most of the time, or we
No.
don't have any intention of, like, you know, anything like eBay. We just want to meet them. But like, unfortunately, now it's gotten to the point where, for whatever reason, everybody's raising their prices so damn high that, I mean, you basically can do one or two things. Like, you can
Oh, yeah.
meet one or two people, or, you know.
Well, what I did at the last Horror Hound was I got the photo op with the Raimi brothers, and I met
Mhm.
William Catt, and that was it. That's all she wrote on
Yeah,
that.
there wasn't a lot of stuff as far as like celebrity wise we did at that last horror hound. Like I did the same thing. I got the photo op with all three Raimis, and I got two items signed by Sam Raimi, which is were at $100 each. But it was just at first I was just going like, well, you know, $100 is a lot for just one autograph, and but I had two specific items that had multiple signatures on them, and the only one that was missing on each of them was Sam Raimi. And one being my original Evil Dead poster, and then the other one being my Evil Dead 2 Book of the Dead DVD.
Oh,
You
yeah.
know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
And like it has like the it looks like the actual pages from the Book of the Dead in it and everything. And I had everybody on those except for Sam Raimi. And I said, you know, this guy's on my bucket list. People I've wanted to meet for years and years, ever since I found out what conventions were. He was like one of the main guys I wanted to meet. And I said, you know, I don't want to be one of them things where, you know, I could meet him at this show and I'll never see him again, or something bad will happen to him or something, because I've been put in those situations plenty of times. So I just said, hell, I mean, so Candace might get mad at me, but I'm doing this.
I don't think Candace would have got mad at you.
No, I
No,
think
she loved it.
she'd be fine. The only person that I really regret like that was, what year was it, Crater, when Argento came to like Texas? He
Mm,
only came like one time, I think, and he may have
I
done like
want to say that was either 2010 or 11.
somewhere around in there, yeah. And like, I should have gone to that because there's like never going to be another opportunity to meet that guy in the States. I
Yeah,
don't think.
and right around that same time, he was booked for a horror hound in Indianapolis.
Yeah.
And I
And
think that he had to cancel because he started filming that Dracula movie.
well,
God.
there was one of these
What
one
a
of these
horrible reason to cancel.
he fell and injured himself.
Mm.
It was the one me and Steve were gonna go to.
Yeah, I just don't think you'll ever see him back. Like, he's almost, what is he, like 80 years, over 80 years old now? Like,
Yeah, I think he's probably done. Like he got that store over in Italy, which is the store is called Profondo Rosso,
yeah.
and
I
I
think
think
Luigi Pozzi runs it, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, he like pops in there every now and then, I think. But as far as like conventions, I don't think, at least any conventions in the United States, I don't think we'll ever see him at anymore.
Oh, I regret. That's the one that I regret. I mean, I never got a chance to meet Wes Craven either, but he never did any shows that I knew, except in like California, which I'm not fucking,
Yeah, and he was supposed to have done that horror hound that one time that right before he died, you know. So he was, I think Nathan and them were trying to like working something out with his management to try to get him to appear for at least like one day, and then like right before that show he passed away. So
Yeah, Wes Craven. Speaking of Wes Craven, he was one of the deaths that really bummed me out. Like that one really hit me hard. And I don't know about anybody else, but I didn't even know he was sick.
I don't think anybody did they? Like, there
I, it
wasn't
didn't
common
seem
knowledge
like
of.
it. Yeah. And then just all of a sudden, Wes Craven's gone. You know, it's like, what? You know, I had one of those moments where it was, where I just found it hard to believe, you know, that, but we've lost other people and it bothered me, but the Wes Craven one hit me really hard for some reason.
I'm trying to remember the last celebrity that really kind of hit me hard when he passed away.
Uh,
I know Romero was a big one for me.
Yeah.
Roddy Piper and Dusty Rhodes were two big ones for me. The last one, maybe Pee Wee Herman. I don't know, because I grew up with him, and that was like something I really loved. All his stuff, even like the stuff outside the Pee Wee Herman character, like when he was in the Cheech and Chong movies. I
Yeah.
loved
I was just thinking about that role. That role's killer, where he's in the insane asylum with him.
Yeah, that's my favorite one.
But
Oh,
I think,
Bill Paxton, Batman.
yeah,
Bill
that's a
Paxton.
good one. It's Romero for me though. Like that's the one that I can really remember, like being super upset about.
I think
Yeah.
the one that I was most disturbed about because of what happened was Lou Perryman, because essentially he
Oh,
got murdered,
yeah.
and
That's an interesting
that
story. I
was
could tell you
really
about that. So first convention I ever went to in 2009 was Cinema Wasteland, and it was in April of 2009. Okay, and Lou Perryman was advertised for that show, so I was really excited about meeting him because I was like, 'cause all these people at that show was like, it was my first time ever meeting kind of celebrity like that. And I remember when I got there, I was like walking around and I was just kind of checking everything out. Like, wow, I was like amazed because all this stuff around me was like stuff that I loved. I didn't ever think there was anything like this. It's like all these vendors had all this cool stuff, and I see all these celebrities just sitting around. Like they had a Texas Chainsaw Massacre 35th anniversary reunion at that. But I after I did like a scan of the floor and everything, I started meeting people, and then like I got to John Dugan. And I was after I met him and everything, I asked him before I left. I said, "Hey, where's Lou Perryman at?" And he's like, "You're joking, right?" And I was like, "No, about what?" He said, "He was murdered yesterday." And I was like, and I was hoping he was just like, this is just some kind of weird sense of humor he had. But like, no, he was telling me what happened. And I went like, looked it up on my phone afterwards. And I was like, what the hell?
yeah.
And so I was like, wow, what an introduction to horror conventions.
Yep. It was. I can't remember how long it was. We interviewed him, and it wasn't very. I think it was like a month later or some crazy amount of time,
Yeah,
like
because
right
I
after we
remember you
interviewed him,
guys interviewing him. Yeah.
and
That's right.
he had
It
died.
was. That's when I started. That was around the same time I was getting into your all show. And I think that was probably one of the first interviews I ever heard that you all do. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't long at all after that interview that happened, and so, I forget who told us about how it happened, and they told us like the story about what happened too on one of those shows, and I was just like, it was like just a random ass guy just came up there and like knocked on his door and he opened it and stabbed him to death, and it's like,
I was reading up on a little bit and one of the articles or whatever said something about the guy wanting to steal his car too, wanting to steal Lou Perryman's car. I think there was something about that too. Uh,
Didn't that guy that killed him, like, didn't he just get like released from like a mental hospital or
I
something
think
right before
he did.
that
that?
sounds right. Yeah,
Yeah,
I do remember something like that too.
yeah. And he hadn't been acting right for a few days
Yeah,
before that happened, and it's yeah,
but it's just happenstance. That's the weird thing about it. Like he just happened upon that house. Like
exactly.
that's the crazy part about that whole story.
Mm. Well, guys, my food is here from Long John Silver's, and
Well, I
so
don't give a shit, Dana. It ain't time to eat. No,
I
you
gotta
say
eat.
right now. You can't get up.
I'm diabetic. Do you want me passing out on you guys?
No, now that you mention it, no, I don't.
Okay, I didn't think you did. So I'm going to remove myself for just a couple of minutes, and I'll be right back. But y'all have fun, talk amongst yourself, and don't anybody start taking any articles of clothing off, though. So we don't want that.
I'll try my best
Yeah.
not to, Dana.
Okay, I'll be right back.
Um, Speaking of Long John Silver's, I actually do not. I detest that place. At least the one here in Hazard,
We
because I don't like it, man.
We don't even have one anymore. There used to be one here in Martin, and they
Yeah, then
shut it down.
they turned it into a Mexican restaurant, didn't they?
Yeah, which is not even that good of a mix. It's like, how do you fuck up Mexican? But they figured out a way to do it, really.
Yeah, that's
Uh,
so weird. When I came over at that time, because I to visit my mom and dad, and we drove through there, and I was like, "What the hell happened to Long John Silver's?" I'm not like really caring because I don't really like the food,
right.
but it's just like it was just like a staple of
It was there
Martin.
for real. Like, it literally been there for 30 years, I'll bet. Like, since I was a kid. And yeah, just all of a sudden just disappeared. The only one left around here is in Paintsville now. That one's still going, but the rest of them.
Candace, we have that one here in Hazard, and she loves Long John Silver's, but because it's so funny, she asked me the other day, like, she just came up with this random question. She says, if you could choose any of the restaurants around here to get rid of for good, what would it be? And I said, Long John Silver's. And she's like, what? Are you insane? She said, over Applebee's? I was like, yeah, I love Applebee's.
I'm thinking like what that'd be for me around here. Probably fucking Arby's because it costs like $45 to get anything from there.
I love Arby's, but they're high as hell. I mean, it's
I mean,
crazy.
you can literally go to like a sit down restaurant for what it costs to get like something for 2 or 3 people at Arby's.
You really can. I mean, it's sad, dude. Like, went to Taco Bell the other day. And I was like, they have what's called I think it's just like a $3 menu now. I'm like, that's insane. Like they had like the under $1 menu for years and years, but like just everything is just insane now. It makes me mad, dude.
Taco Bell used to be like the least expensive. Like that's where you would go and you could get like 20 things for $10 and shit, you know.
Yeah,
And then
I mean,
now it's like,
I remember when I was like I used to work at Walmart and my shift wouldn't start till like 2 o'clock and the next day. And this is when they were, Taco Bell were open over here at least. It was open to like 4 in the morning. So we would get at like 2 or 3 in the morning, go buy like $20 worth of Taco Bell and we'd have like this huge bag full of shit. It was awesome.
Candace says you're insane. She says Long John. That's awesome.
The only thing now, listen, I don't dislike everything from Long John's, but I do like their shrimp and their clams, but that's about it.
I like their hush puppies and I like their chicken planks. If you put a shit ton of malt vinegar on them, that's really the only way I can eat them. Like they have to be French.
I can't eat vinegar. I can't. It's just I don't like the taste of it. But Candace, she'll drown her shit in vinegar. She loves it.
That's the best part to me. But like, yeah, I don't know. Like, if there's not a lot of good places around here to eat anymore, like at all.
We just we got like 3 or 4 Subways over here in Hazard. It's ridiculous.
That's same here.
Like,
and
we need that many. It's crazy.
I don't know that many people that even give a shit about Subway. It's like not a, but they're all over the place.
I like Subway.
Well, Dana, I mean, yeah, but like, do we need 3 of them in a 10-mile radius? No.
Well, no, but that's like the Taco Bells around here. You'll have one, and then a couple miles up the road, you'll have another one.
Well, that's Louisville, though, Dana. I mean, like we live in very small towns in Eastern Kentucky.
Like, I would say, no joke. There's 3 Subways between like in a 10-mile radius around like Prestonsburg, and like we're talking about a city that might have 2,000 or 3,000 people in it on a good day.
Yeah.
Hazard
is one of the
day.
I'm pretty sure I've seen statistics for this somewhere, but Hazard is one of the like poorest towns in all of America. I'm pretty sure, and there's a lot of bad crap around here, but I enjoy living here to an extent. I mean, it's like I'm comfortable with it, but I mean, there are times that I'm like, I wish I could move off somewhere, but a lot of that has to like factors in is like family and stuff. If I, moved off somewhere, I wouldn't. It'd be hard to see them all the time. So,
So I love this extra talking around here, but to get back to 1408, do we want to give a rating on? this one.
I know what your rating's gonna be, Dana.
You
You
may
want
be
to bet? I know what it's gonna be. Go ahead.
okay.
No, you just put 4 up there because you knew I was waiting on
No,
you. But
no,
you
I
fucking knew
was
that.
like
You
that,
didn't know
Uncle
that.
Bill. No, that's what I had in the back of my mind earlier before
knew
you
you-
even came on here.
You knew you was gonna put 5 on there until I said anything.
No.
I actually agree with you. I'd give it a 4 too.
Okay.
Yeah, me too. That's what I was thinking initially, but because like I said, I didn't want to give it a 5 because like I really kind of reserved that for like my favorite movies ever. But yeah, I think this movie definitely deserves a 4 because it has a great story. It has a lot of twists and turns with it.
Yes.
I mean, the cast is small, but I think I appreciate films more when they have a smaller cast
I think
because everything's not like all over the place, and you got to figure out what this group of people's doing, what this and how it's all going to like, come together in the end. But this one, with the exception of like Samuel Jackson, and a couple other, it's pretty much just John Cusack throughout the whole
Yep.
thing. And yeah, and like Uncle Bill said earlier, like I really enjoy those films that have settings where he kind of stays in one place for almost the whole movie.
right. It's almost refreshing to have a movie that's like that. That's so much on that smaller scale.
Yeah, and that movie, lives and dies on how well John Cusack does in it when he does a really good
Yeah.
job too.
And despite us saying he's probably an asshole in real life or a jerk in real life, he's great in this movie.
Yeah,
He's
it's
great in
fantastic.
most movies he's in.
Yeah, okay. Let's talk about John Cusack for a minute.
All right.
So you've got at one period of time, he did Better Off Dead, which is one of my favorite movies.
Yeah,
He did Say Anything, which is a great movie.
Yeah.
He did High Fidelity, which is a great movie. He did what else did he do in
he wasn't like a big part in it, but he was like one of the friends of Anthony Michael Hall's in 16 Candles.
Yeah.
That's right, he was. Yep. And then like at some point in the mid 90s, I guess, he transitioned like a leading man kind of role. He started like showing up like more like
Well, he was in that Must Love Dogs movie. How many people watched that movie? I did.
I don't even know what that is.
Is that the
That's that movie with him and Diane Lane, I think.
Oh, okay. I'm thinking of the one with Janine Garofalo for some reason.
Oh, yeah, what was that one?
Did you all ever watch that movie where he plays Edgar Allan Poe? I think it's called The Raven.
I didn't see that one.
Oh, yeah, I have.
It's decent,
Yeah, it's decent.
So he does in the 90s. He does Gross Point Blank. I was looking it up here, which is like that's a pretty good movie too. Where he's the hitman, and then
isn't he in like Armageddon? Is he in Armageddon?
Is he in Armageddon or is he in that? He's in what's that other one? Isn't he in Con Air? Is he in Con Air?
Yeah, he's in Con Air. Yeah. For some reason, I was thinking he was like one of the NASA guys in Armageddon, but I might be thinking of somebody else.
He may be. I'm looking it up here, but I don't see Armageddon on here.
You're right, TJ. Identity is a good one.
Identity is great.
Yes,
Runaway Jury, America's Sweethearts. He does a bunch of movies in the late 90s, early 2000s where he's like the star or at least a co-star. And then Hot Tub Time Machine later on, like
yeah.
But
that's got some pretty funny parts in it. But I mean, I'm not huge on Hot Tub Time Machine.
I just love what's that guy's name? I love his role in it. The guy that was on the Daily Show. I can't remember his name. The bald guy on the Daily Show.
Watch the Daily Show.
Somebody on here in the channel know who I'm talking about. Like his role is.
Hey, you know who it is? Batman. They usually will step up and say.
Con Air. I forgot that he was in Con Air, and that's if I had to pick a favorite Nicolas Cage film, it's got to be Con Air because,
That's a tough one to
like,
beat. Yeah.
especially the end of that film, the whole like sequence when they're like chasing after one another and like there's like all these explosions and it's oh my god, it's awesome. I love it.
I think my dad rented Con Air. Either he rented it or we watched it on satellite when we finally got satellite. One of the two.
Is Rob Corddry that guy you was trying to think of?
Yeah, that's him. Yeah.
Okay.
He's the asshole friend in Hot Tub Time Machine. He's probably the best part of the movie. He's the one that like has the bet. He bets in the bar with William Zabka, and this was before, like years and years before anybody even thought about Cobra Kai or anything. And he's like playing the asshole douche character, like William Zabka is in the bar.
Well, yeah, that's what William Zabka did for years. Was
Yeah, he's the one at the end that like stays behind and he alters all these events in time. Like he
Right.
invented Google and all this stuff.
Right. I do like that movie. I can't lie. But anyway, yeah.
we could have, I did a John Cusack retrospective. It's been a while. I wish I had you guys on here when I did that.
He's done a lot of great movies.
Like you said, Dana, like once you kind of do like a watch along or whatever you're doing with High Fidelity again.
Oh, I'm definitely going to do that.
Yeah, let me know because like I said, that's my favorite John Cusack film, and like it's just really cool. Like how I love films like that are kind of set around the music industry or like record stores. Like that one is kind of like. Have you ever seen Empire Records?
I knew that's what you were going to say. That's great.
Oh,
That's of my era. Yeah.
That one.
Yeah, that one came out like right when I was in high school, I think, and like everybody watched that movie at that time. Sexy
Yeah.
Rexy.
It's Rex Manning Day.
Pretty in Pink has a few big scenes in a record store because Annie Potts owns the record store and Molly Greenwald works in it.
Yeah, I'll tell you, like outside of movies, one of my favorite TV shows of all time is That 70s Show. And like I think it's in the later seasons, like Hyde's dad like owns this record store and he lets him start working in it and stuff. And it's really cool to see because like if you've ever seen like actual pictures from like back in the 70s of what record stores look like and stuff, that's basically what that record store looks like in That 70s Show. And it just has all these different albums like sitting out there and stuff. And yeah, I love stuff that revolves around like record stores and stuff. That's really cool to me.
Well, do y'all want to move on to the Mist? Because this is going to get everybody riled up. It's probably
Yeah, this should be an interesting conversation for sure.
Okay. First of all, and I think all of you, or mostly all of you, will agree with me. As Uncle Bill said, and I think Chris said too, the movie itself is great.
Yeah.
But where people have the problem with it is the ending. Now, I'm just going to go on record here as saying I feel two ways about this. On one hand, I feel like, and people are going to start yelling and screaming when I say this, was this the ending that people wanted? No, it was not. But was it the ending?
It'd be killer if it was. Like, yeah.
Think about it for a second. This is an apocalyptic nightmare, basically, is what this is. That's what the Mist is to me, anyway. So I know we're dealing with a sensitive subject of the death of children and all kinds of things mixed in there. There's going to be a lot of emotions in here. But you think about how most Stephen King stories ended, or most Stephen King film adaptations have ended based on his book. For instance, Carrie. Carrie White was not a child. She was not a young child, but
Right.
she was a teenager. She was awkward. She was shy. She didn't fit in. And she got asked to prom by the most popular boy in school. And what
Mm.
happens to her? She gets pig's blood dumped on her in front of the whole student body. Then she goes home and asks for help from her mother. What does her mother do? She stabs her because her mother's a crazy ass. Right?
Yeah.
So my mom cannot watch the end of Carrie now because she said, in my mom's words, Carrie was so happy.
Mm.
So you see where I'm going with this?
Yeah.
Sometimes we we need that to ground us. We need endings like this to ground us. It's not going to make everybody happy. In fact, it makes some people very angry to see an ending like the mist ending.
Well, I mean, yeah, I mean, like, I think that kind of gives, even though I don't like the ending to The Mist, I feel like it does give it kind of character in a way, in a strange way, because not all endings can be happy endings, like you said. And something I've noticed, like I didn't really think about it till now as we were talking about this, but it it almost kind of seems like in Stephen. And I love Stephen King. He's my favorite author, probably of all time. But I've noticed, after talking about this more, that it seems like he almost has an infatuation with torturing kids in different ways. If he's not torturing them, he's killing them. I mean, if you look at the kid in Maximum Overdrive that gets steamrolled, look at all the kids in It that are being tortured by this demonic clown like entity, and then Carrie, which she was a teenager, but still a teenager to me is still a child, especially like compared to what I am nowadays. But it just seems like that it's just something that he kind of like, or The Shining, as he's like kind of at the ending of The Shining, as Jack is chasing after Danny, and just there's a lot of that, and I don't know. I mean, I know that Stephen King has children, one of them notably being Joe Hill, but I wonder if he had any kind of like resentment towards his
Well,
kids.
I don't think it was that. I have watched many interviews with Stephen King over the years, from interviews where he was a young man to interviews more recent. And one of the things somebody asked him, and they probably asked him this more than once, why do you write these sorts of horrible stories? Why do you let these horrible things happen to kids and adults and everybody? And he said it best one time when he explained it like this. He said, everybody is worried, frightened of something. They're either frightened that something's going to happen to their children. They're frightened that they're going to get a horrible disease and suffer and die. Okay, what does Stephen King do? He puts this into his books, therefore exercising his demons. He said at one time that he thought, if I write the worst thing that ever could happen to me, maybe it won't happen. So I think that's really why he puts children, even especially when he was a young man and his kids were young.
Yeah.
He was scared to death of his kids getting run over in the road. His son, I think it was Joe, almost got killed in the road. And
Dang.
he said he just grabbed the back of his shirt and was able to pull him back before he went out in the road and a big truck would have ran over him.
Do you think it's something like because that kind of when you told that story just now, it reminds me of like what happens in Pet Cemetery with Gage. And do you think that that's kind of like his way of just putting that in there, or what did that? I mean, was did that happen before he wrote Pet Cemetery, or do you know?
I believe it did because they I think they may have been staying at a summer house or something in Maine. Um, Either that or they moved to a different area of Maine temporarily because Stephen King was teaching college at that time.
Hmm.
And that's when the experience happened with his son.
I'm just curious if he wrote that out in Pet Cemetery to kind of just like, well, this is what could have happened, and that's his own way of just kind of like coping with it,
Yeah,
like
I
like
think so.
what I don't know. It's just it seems kind of similar though the way those that happened.
I tell you what else, cocaine's a hell of a drug.
Well, it's so much of a hell of a drug that he doesn't remember writing Cujo. And I
It's
think that's a great book, but he doesn't remember writing it because he was doing so much cocaine.
no, I mean, I think that, yeah, I think that what Dana is saying is probably likely that he's just like riding like the worst possible fears that he has, like trying to maybe like get him out of himself in some way, out of his head and onto paper, like so he can kind of
Yeah.
like deal with them, and maybe like he said, like they won't come true, which
Yeah,
is a great way to write because you can't if you write like horror stories like that, you can't have any kind of like boundaries, right? Like anything goes and those kind of things if you want to make something memorable. So, I mean, that's the way you kind of have to go about it. I think like you've got to be that way.
hmm
Uh, but I saw just to go back to the Mist for a second. I saw the Mist in the theater, and I think I saw it with Wes. And I remember being in the theater when that ending hit, and nobody like said anything or moved or like everybody was just completely stunned.
hmm
And I remember what my initial thought was about that ending, which was my initial thought was that took a lot of balls. Like, cause
yeah,
he had to know that that ending was going to piss off like a ton of people. And to put something like that into a movie, like a mainstream movie that was like, everywhere. I mean, you just didn't see stuff like that at that time. Like every movie around that time period was like a happy kind of ending
yeah.
movie and everything turned out okay. And I think that, I always love the ending of that movie. People talk shit about it and they go on about it and they rally against it or whatever. But like I don't see anybody else making that damn movie except maybe David Fincher or somebody like that. Like, you know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like at that time period, like nobody had the balls to make an ending like that or a
And
movie
this
like that.
this was not only Stephen King. This was Frank Darabont, who
Yeah.
Frank
Yeah.
Darabont was he's still respected. But I think at that moment, the ending of this film, people hated Frank Darabont. They hated Frank Darabont for doing that.
Well, I don't know if that's possible. I'm sure some people did, but I didn't hate Frank Darabont for it. I just thought it was kind of just lazy writing, um, and I just felt like it. But like how Uncle Bill said, nobody else had the balls to do that during at that time. So even though as much as we don't like that ending, it's memorable to us. It's shocking to us,
Yeah, I mean,
and I think.
there's no way to like it, right? I mean,
No, I'm not
you
saying
can't
I like it. I'm not going to throw a party because of that
or
ending.
but it is like it is what's the word affecting. Like I mean, when you see it, like you don't it doesn't just end and you're like you forget about it like a week later or whatever. Like it's a movie ending that stays with you for like all time. Like
And
No,
there's
and
a lot of stuff like that in this movie that kind of not. I mean, the ending mostly will stick with most people, and that will be the thing that stands out the most to them. But one of the things, and this is like this with many films, but if there's somebody in it, like in the film, like a character that you end up hating so much that you just want them to die. Like, and there's the religious lady in this. It's like they're trying to get them like kicked out, put them out of the store and everything. Like,
Harmony.
oh my god, that was one of the things that like really like got me interested. And when I first watched this movie was like, I just wanted them to hurry up and kill this lady because like she did that good of a job, and it takes a lot, I think, when you're an actor to really get your audience to hate you because villains are a lot of the time, and especially horror films, villains are beloved. They're beloved by a lot of people, like Freddy Krueger, Jason, Michael Myers. All those types of villains are beloved by people, and kind of like almost that where people treat them as it like they're heroes to an extent.
Yeah.
But it's always awesome to see a villain in a movie that they really make you truly hate them, and that was like that for me for this film.
Yeah,
Mhm.
Marcia Gay Harden is a great actress. As
Oh, yeah.
she was the religious fanatic in it. She's great in just about everything, really, but especially in that movie because you're right. Like you, by the end of that movie, you really hated her because like she was just everything she did was based around
Yeah.
some warped kind of interpretation of the Bible and what she was
Yeah.
doing. And that movie had a great cast too. William Sadler. I
Yeah.
love William Sadler in just about anything. Marcia Gay Harden, Thomas Jane. Uh, who was the chick that was the blonde in it? That was kind of the other main lead. She was on.
Oh, she's the chick that plays Lori on The Walking Dead. Because
Yeah,
that other guy that played, I can't think of the actor's name, but played Dale on Walking Dead. He's done a lot of stuff with Frank Darabont. Like he was
yeah.
in Mall, and then he was in
The
this.
older guy. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
But
He was.
I think that girl, no, I said Lori. I meant Andrea. The girl that plays Andrea in The Walking Dead is
Yeah.
the blonde headed chick. I can't think of the actress's actual name.
I think her actual name is Lori, isn't it? Like Lori Holden or something like that. Like,
That might be why I said Lori.
yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, that whole cast is great. And it's a
Oh,
lot of the same people that you see in a lot of Darabont's movies too. Like he just
yeah.
Mhm.
reuses the same cast a lot of time. Uh there's that whole movie to me is fascinating because it's just a play on like all these different social groups,
Mhm.
cliques and things like that that form all this shit's going on. And like everybody's got their it's like Dawn of the Dead in a way. Like everybody's got their own idea about like how what they should do and like they're
Mhm.
all different and they all end up with equally bad results really.
I
Mhm.
Kind of.
never thought about it like that, but I can definitely see how it's kind of similar to Dawn of the Dead in that aspect, and also the fact that they're kind of locked up in one location for the
Yeah,
Yeah.
entire film. That's really interesting the way you put that.
yeah, well it's really a story about like all these different cliques that have different ideas about what they should do to survive this, which is basically what Dawn of the Dead is too. So like in Dawn of the Dead, some of them want to run, some of them want to hole up in there, some of them want to they just want all the shit that's in the store and like to live there or whatever. And then some of them, like the bikers, just want chaos.
Yeah,
And that's kind of like the same thing that
Yeah.
the mist is too.
But I think that I keep going back to the ending, but the ending's the most controversial thing for people. Um, I think the ending is hard to watch, hard to swallow, as reprehensible as it may seem. I think this I think that ending raises this movie up a couple of notches and makes it more than just a creature film, just a
yeah,
monster film. Because I think without that element and without the element of Miss Carmody, that crazy batshit crazy lady, turning people against each other in the supermarket and all that. If you didn't have all these little pieces, then this would have just been a monster movie.
Yeah.
Plain and
Yeah.
simple. It would have been tentacles coming out of the mist and killing people.
And the effects are okay, but they're not great. I mean, they age pretty bad for today
Mm,
standards too, but so I mean if it was just that type of movie, like it wouldn't have been good at all nowadays.
and I think that's one of the things that people are interested in most when they watch a creature feature like that is like when the reveal of the creature itself and what it actually looks like, and I think that's kind of maybe like because I can't remember, maybe you guys can, but like in the trailer for this, there's really no like kind of look at the creatures or anything within the trailer. So I think, but it was just kind of like a small glimpse, like maybe like one of the tentacles or something coming through and grabbing somebody. But I think that's kind of like what draws people to stuff like that. Is like because they want to see what is that this mysterious creature look like. Which and it kind of reminds me of like when I think about that, you think about John Carpenter's The Thing. So when you first see like the first reveal of the Thing, when it's like transforming from all the dogs there at the base, it's really like to me one of the greatest like effects sequences in history, and yeah, that's what appeals to me when cause I don't know about anybody else. That's definitely how I feel about it.
To go back to the source material for a second, though, there was an audio book that came out for The Mist that was the most awesome audio book I have ever listened to because it has 3D surround sound. So what you do is, I think they had it in cassette form and CD form as well, is you put your cassette or CD in the player, you put on headphones, and by golly, you hear those monsters all around you. It's like they're in the room with you. It was the most awesome thing ever. If anybody can get a copy of that, of The Mist with the 3D sound, I would highly, highly recommend it. I just wanted to bring that up because I don't know how many people have listened to it in audio form. Hey, Ghost.
I,
TJ's
I
got
have
me.
I have to have I got a diaper on him right now because he's been having some issues peeing all over the house. So I got these dog diapers for him and trying to see if we can fix that.
Yeah, I've had to put those male wraps on some of my male dogs, especially when they get older and start having more of those types of accidents. Brandon, in the last year or so of his life, he had to wear one constantly, pretty much. But not to make anybody sad, We're already sad talking about the ending to The Mist. I don't want to make
And that,
people sad our dogs.
this is what I personally think, and I'm sure most people would think the same thing. But like the reason that ending to that movie is so shocking is because of the kid. Now,
Yeah.
do you think it wouldn't have that same effect if that kid wasn't involved? Do you
Yeah.
agree?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that completely.
And I think what makes it even worse is like how quickly that the, the thing happens, and then like it's just like within a couple minutes, everything it's like cleared up, and they're
Yeah.
Yeah.
and that's the other part of it was just like, and I think that that's definitely intentional, and people like hate it because of what it is, but it's like, I mean, sometimes shit like that just happens. Like sometimes, like you make the best decision that you think you can make, and then 2 minutes later, like it's a horrible decision. It just shit like that happens, man. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure stuff like that's happened like all over the world, where something horrible's happened, where if just 5 minutes had gone by and somebody would have made one different like decision, it would have saved the whole thing. That's just the reality of life, though.
TJ, in connection with that, TJ made a good point. He said, would it have been better with the same ending of The Mist if the military showed up the next day instead of 2 minutes after he offed his people?
Not to me. I mean, that's what makes it really heartbreaking. Like, is that it's such a
Yeah.
short,
Because he didn't realize that he could if he had just waited a few more minutes. I agree with that. It's definitely what makes it heartbreaking because he's like, that happens, and then the next series of events is all the government coming through there and cleaning all this up, and he didn't kill himself, so he has to live with that now, the choice that he just made.
yeah.
So yeah,
There is like I did see something on Arrow in the Head that was one of the funniest damn memes I'd ever seen, though. It said, did you see it, Dana?
I may have seen about. I want you to go ahead and.
The first picture is like a picture, like it says, like, how impatient am I? And then it's just got a picture of him sitting in the car with the people. This impatient. Oh, sorry, but that killed me when I saw it.
TJ, TJ, good point. Stephen King did kill the kid in Cujo, and when they made the movie, the
Wow,
kid
I
got
didn't
to
know that.
live. Yeah.
Yeah, that's one that it's one of his big ones, that I've never actually read the original book. But I didn't know that. That's really interesting to know.
Of course, I don't know if that was the cocaine that killed the kid off or the kid that killed the kid.
I think, like you said, that's got that right there has a lot to do with his experience, like you were saying, with his own son, and kind of being terrified of that too.
Yeah. I mean, Stephen King's run the gamut of writing about horrible things that could happen to people.
Yeah.
Um,
To me, though, the one in Maximum Overdrive, that's cocaine. Like, there ain't no reason for that kid to get run over by a steamroller other than just like,
Stephen King was like, let's run over this kid with a
yeah.
steamer.
He's like, that's a good idea.
Here, you want a hit of this stuff? You want to hit us some of my coke?
The going back to the mist again was like that. The ending, the biggest thing about the ending is like the the reveal that the government is cleaning all this up, and he just Thomas Jane's character just made this like extremely regrettable choice. But
Yeah.
I think there's something else in that ending that also bothers me besides all that is the fact that I can't think of the actress's name, or I can't remember what her character's name was in the film, but she's the one that played Carol in The Walking Dead. So early in the film, she leaves that like supermarket to go after her kid or whatever. And in that ending, he sees her. She's like on this truck with all these other people, and she survived. And that's what bothered me as well in that ending. It's like, how in the hell did she survive from the point she left that store to like when did they pick her up? I mean, at what point did they pick her up to save her from all that stuff? And why didn't they get there sooner? If she knew where all the other people were, why didn't the government people get to them sooner?
I wonder if
Yeah,
that.
that's a good question. I never really thought about it. Like, I
I,
never
I,
really.
I wonder if it had something to do with Stephen King. Stephen King has always had a mistrust of of government. I don't know about the military, but he's always had. But the military is always, to me, is an extension of the government.
Oh yeah,
The way I
100%.
look at it. So Stephen King has never trusted government entities. So I wonder if maybe he had talked with Frank Darabont and said, "Hey, maybe this is how this should play out." I don't know if this is discussions they had that there's something screwy going on with our military. There's something screwy going on with our government, and let's put this in here and see how many people pick up on that.
Well, I mean, if you're a fan of the X-Files, you can see a lot of that. They gotta go into that in a lot of the episodes of how like everything's twisted with it. That's pretty much one of the main premises of the series. Um, but yeah, it's always interesting to really think about that stuff and how that kind of relates to reality.
Yeah.
Mm.
If you really sit down and think about like how corrupt the government is, it's probably overwhelming. Like, that's why people don't do it a lot, I think, because you really can't do anything about it, and we're all just kind of screwed when it comes to that.
But
And
sometimes I catch myself watching stuff like I, I don't mean to get off on a whole other thing, but has anybody in here or Chris, Uncle Bill, have y'all ever watched those old documentaries on the? There was one on ABC News. I think it was back in the 70s or maybe the 80s called Mission Mind Control. where it talked about how RCIA had funded a bunch of these mind control experiments back in the
Oh yeah, MK Ultra and all that.
60s.
Yeah.
Yeah. And one of the worst was this mental health facility in Canada that our government, RCIA, give a psychiatrist there money to essentially experiment on his patients that he had there, and he destroyed their lives. He caused some people to have their minds wiped. Basically, they were back to being a baby. They didn't know they were using the bathroom on themselves. They didn't know how to go to the bathroom. They didn't know their family members. It's just like they've taken a giant sponge and just wiped their brain clean.
So
That
when did that happen, Dana?
I think that happened in Canada maybe in the mid to late 50s into the 60s, I think.
Well, when I think of anything that kind of sounds similar to that is like film wise, that sounds a lot like A Clockwork Orange, and how they kind of take Alex and they kind of show him all these different like images of like this terrible stuff like murder and all these things are just and they're just kind of giving that sensory overload.
Right.
I mean, because that's an experiment they're doing to try to make these like bad people into, I guess, good people to where they're sensitive to things like that. So that's interesting.
Yeah, they did all kinds of things with loop tapes. They would drug these people up, put headphones on them, and have them listen to the same message over and over and over again. They shot them up with LSD and then locked them in rooms. There were people clawing their faces. They thought there were bugs crawling on them. And these people, these doctors and nurses just watched through the door. Didn't do anything to help these poor people. If you want to see more about it or read more about it, there was a mini series called The Sleep Room. You
Hmm.
need to watch that if you're at
Is
all
that,
interested.
is that on anything? Is that streaming on anything?
I mean, you could probably find it on YouTube. I'm
Oh, okay.
willing to bet you could. Just put in The Sleep Room. And
Yeah, I'm
I'm gonna
definitely
tell
interested
you.
in that kind of stuff.
I'm gonna tell you right now, though, Dana, the U.S. has got nothing on Japan when it comes to that kind of war and atrocities and shit like that and
oh gosh, I
experimentation.
probably don't even want to know because
Japan's got the Yakuza, so I mean that's a whole nother thing to
Back
get into.
back around World War II, they had that whole I'm trying to remember what the name of it was, where they took, they had American prisoners and other Asian prisoners and it's like Soviet prisoners and things like that. And they were running all those experiments on them, like just the think of the worst possible things you can possibly ever think of. That you could run experiments on people, and there's actually a movie that's horrifying, but it's basically a documentary. It's 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 a documentary, but it's like a Cat 3 film too. It's called Men Behind the Sun. I'm sure Steve's got it. Uh,
in some
and
form or another, he probably does.
it is basically like what they did, like some of the experiments that they did, like on soldiers and things like that in the war. And it was under the guise of like trying to prove, what happens to people's bodies at certain temperatures, what happens to people's bodies under certain conditions, things like that, like to improve so they said to improve their own armies and to understand what would happen like with certain things like nerve gases and things so they basically use real people as experiments.
Well, and the
And
stuff that Hitler did.
yeah, I mean this is across the board. It's not just the US. This is like pretty much every country.
Yeah.
Soviets, the Germans, Japan, like they've all done shit like this. So, but the US is I think kind of more notorious and interesting because number one, that shit's still going on to a large degree. Well, it is still going on in the Soviet Union, but number two, they're much more. What's the word? I won't say secretive, but they're much more they just don't get caught doing it. Look at the Boeing shit that's going on right now. Hell, I'm even afraid to talk about that. I'm afraid somebody will fucking like drone my house or something. Like, but people are still getting suicided, for this stuff that's going on with this Boeing stuff right now, these whistleblowers and stuff. I mean, the government, for people that don't know, real quick breakdown. Boeing had a couple of quality assurance inspectors that were going to testify against them to say that basically they were using scrap metal to construct like a lot of these planes, and it was a safety hazard. And two of these guys now, within the span of 2 weeks, one of them died by suicide after he told his wife explicitly, if I die by suicide, I didn't kill myself. Like, they've had me killed. And it was right before he was to testify. Now, and the other one came down with some sort of disease that the doctor at the emergency room said he'd never seen before in his life, where it basically liquefied his lungs. He was septic, and he went to the emergency room, and they said that his lungs had basically liquefied at that point. And that nobody had ever seen anything like it up to that point.
So essentially, somebody must have injected him with something or exposed him.
Well, I mean, that's kind of but he was also going to testify. And by the way, what does Boeing do? They produce aircrafts for the military. That's
yeah.
See, it's always interesting in those types of situations, like, because like Uncle Bill was talking about, we as like just regular citizens, we never truly know what's going on behind closed doors with the government and all these big officials and all that. And like it kind of goes back to just the stuff with Area 51 and all that. Like, who knows if any of that stuff that we hear about that is true or not? Or like right Patterson Air Force Base and all that stuff involving like UFOs or just anything like how just that stuff that Uncle Bill was just talking about. I mean, like, we never truly know, like, and we never will know, like, unless we were involved in that stuff. To what really goes on, and it always intrigues me when they kind of like throw that aspect in the films, because it's just something that everybody like knows about, like that as far as like the government doing these behind closed doors things, but we don't really know what their reasons are for that. And not to make light of things, but it makes me think of Return of the Living Dead 3, what they're doing, like with these people, the zombies, and they're just making them into this like this army to the military is using against for like foreign wars and all that. And not to say that that's something that will actually happen, but anymore now,
it could.
If there were zombies, I think the government would try to get them and utilize them for warfare.
Oh yeah, 100%. That's what would happen.
I mean, it's just this stuff is a really horribly kept secret. Like, everybody kind of knows about a lot of this stuff. Like, in terms of like, they're nobody's really trying to cover it up. Like, they're just basically saying like, you can never prove it. So, you're never going to be able to prove that guy didn't commit suicide. You're never going to be able to prove that guy didn't just have some sort of sepsis or something. There's no like way, but everybody kind of knows that the government does a lot of shady shit, but it's like, you can't really ever like pin anything down. Like, there's, so it just continues.
It's kind of like the Epstein stuff too.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
But that's a whole nother like conversation with that stuff.
I don't even like conspiracy theories. Like, I don't even believe in 90% of conspiracy theories.
Right.
But shit has gotten like really strange. Like, a lot of really strange things like that happen that you're just kind of like, okay, like, even if you don't believe in conspiracy theories, this is just a little too like coincidental that some of this stuff happens.
But that does kind of make me think of something, and kind of brings it back full circle, Stephen King related, with The Shining. I don't know if you've ever seen the documentary Room 237, but it's just like, it's the entire documentary is just like based off the conspiracy that Stanley Kubrick, he filmed like the moon landing and all that. And there's a lot of people out there that choose to believe that. And for the longest time, I did. I'm not gonna and watching that documentary, everything that's involved in that,
Yeah.
it makes you believe it. But at this point in my life, I'm like, I don't know. I really don't know what to believe when it comes to any of that stuff.
Well, me and Steve watched it a while back, and it. I think we looked at it as as entertainment value. But Chris, I do agree with you that like if you really pay attention to that, it all seems to make sense, and you
Yeah.
can almost believe that they faked the moon landing and that they had Stanley Kubrick film it just because of all these little bits and pieces that they keep showing you from clips from The Shining.
hmm
So it was very well constructed, I will say that.
And for a long time, like even before I ever watched that documentary or anything like that, like my logic was when it came to the moon landing was if he was the first man on the moon, how did they get the camera out on the moon? Who put that out there? And what we're seeing on the film when he's stepping onto the moon, like that's supposed to be that's what we're seeing that for everybody's seeing that for the first time, right? So like
Mhm.
what was used or what did they use? Because I don't think at that time period they didn't have any kind of like Land Rovers or anything to carry stuff out there for them. So that's an interesting topic. Maybe you can do a whole show over conspiracy theories, Dana,
Oh
or
yeah,
something.
we could. Yeah, we could have. We could probably have two or three or more streams talking about that stuff. As many conspiracy theories
Excuse
as there are. Um, but but again, the side conversations have been almost more fun than talking about the movies tonight. But that's why it's great when I have
Well,
other
listen,
people on
I
here.
just want to say on this stream right now before we go any further that if I die tonight, it's under mysterious circumstances that it's fucking Biden. Biden did it to me, bulls. He drone strike me or something. Something happened. Boeing came after me.
Listen, I'll just have to. I'll go full renegade if that happens.
Yeah, you
That'd
can't
be
take
killer.
Uncle Bill out. We're gonna.
Ah,
Oh man.
but
Uh,
anyway, uh,
so is there anything either of you want to say in addition to what we've already said about the mist, or do you want to get right to the ratings? Or
God, that's a tough movie to rate, really.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if I have anything additional to say when it comes to. I mean, like, because I think we pretty much covered a lot of ground when it comes to this
yeah, and a
film.
lot of different
And,
angles, I think.
and just talk about all these little side conversations we had too, because it all kind of relates to it, really. I mean, a lot of
Yeah.
things that we're talking about. Um, but yeah, as far as this one, like I said earlier, I do enjoy 1408 more than this film.
Mhm.
And I think a lot of how this movie ends like factors into why I like 1408 better. But I would still give this film a three. I think just based on everything else throughout the film, and if the ending would have been a bit different and not, which it's still even though I don't like the ending, it's still effective. Um, but it's
Definitely.
not. It's effective in a way to where it bothers me. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And so I think if it was a little bit different, maybe this would get a four for me. But I'm right now I'm at a three.
I think that's fair. What about you, Uncle Will?
I'm going to give it a 4 for a completely different reason than I gave 1408 a 4. I give it a 4 mostly because of the ending. Like I've always thought that like that ending was unrightfully kind of shit on, and I always kind of tried to defend that ending because it was completely different than anything we were seeing at that time, and probably still are seeing. Probably more so now than it was then, because nowadays you just got like all these fucking Disney and Marvel movies that everything ends with some bullshit.
Hey, I like Marvel movies,
I
but
know, yeah, but you ain't gonna see nobody shooting a bunch of people at the end of a Marvel movie. You know what I mean? Like right, that'd be cute if it happened, but I don't
No,
think
hey,
you
because
see it.
people bring their kids to these Marvel movies.
let's not forget that Deadpool and Wolverine is coming out, so it could happen.
It is rated R. It
Yeah,
could, like, yeah.
I'm looking forward to seeing that. I think me and Steve are going to
I
go.
think it's pretty awesome, man.
Well, I'm going to give it a 4 as well. I'm going to leave that 4 up there. Just because, although it's not a perfect film, I think that this film, in my opinion, people can throw tomatoes at me if they want, but I think it perfectly complements Stephen King's source material. It has a different take on a few things, but I think that's what makes it original. That's what makes it great to me. No, I don't think killing kids off in a movie is a thing to celebrate. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying,
That's why you like it, Dana.
no,
Don't lie.
no, don't make me have to be that kind of person.
So
Uh,
this movie is very close to the source material. Is that what you're saying?
I on most accounts. Now,
Mo-
it does veer off the source material, but I think they complement each other. Stephen King's
Right.
source material and what Frank Darabont did with the film, I think are they bookend each other. They just fit together like two puzzle pieces for me.
Maybe I'm wrong about this, Dana, and this might have been another movie that he was talking about.
Hmm.
But was this the one where Stephen King said like he wished he would have thought of that ending?
I think he did. I believe he did,
Yeah,
Uncle Bill. That
yeah,
that
he did say that. I'm pretty sure.
Because I always remembered that, like, and I think it was this movie where he was like, it didn't end this way in the book, but he was like, if I would have thought of it, it would have ended this way.
Yeah, yeah. And that doesn't
So
mean Stephen King's a sadist. It what it says to me is I think Stephen King felt that this was the appropriate ending for this type of story.
hmm. And do you think that Stephen King liked this film adaptation better than Stanley Kubrick's The Shining?
Oh
'Cause I know
God!
Yeah, I know he did. Yeah.
because I know he's not a very big fan of that
Here's the
at
real
all.
question, though, Dana. Gun
Dude,
to your
only
head.
the
You
father
got to
had.
choose The Shining with Stanley Kubrick version or The Shining, the
I'm
shitty
telling you,
miniseries
I
with the dude
will
from
never do
Wings.
that.
What are you
We're
going to
dealing
choose?
with apples and oranges here.
You're in a car and you've got to choose those two. Otherwise, the dude's going to shoot everybody in the car, Dana. What do you do?
I'll say sacrifice me and leave these other people alone. I'm still not telling.
Oh,
God.
that's all poor Dana.
That's me. I can be hardcore sometimes. Oh man, Uncle Bill's never gonna let this go. Uh, Me and Uncle Bill could be on our deathbeds, and Uncle Bill would say, "Dana, I just got one last question before we die, before we
Yep.
croak."
And then
And
Dana
it's
would be like,
gonna be that. It's gonna be that.
she'd be like, I'm sorry, you got to just die without knowing because I'm not going to
I'm gonna
pick.
say, pull the plug on me, so I don't have to answer.
And and I don't to get morbid or anything, but on your gravestone, Dana, it'll say it's just apples and oranges.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
I love tormenting Uncle Bill too this way by not, giving him a definite answer. He knows that. He knows I like tormenting.
That's your all's gimmick with one another, though.
The
You got
torment each other.
Yeah.
We've
The
done it for
Shining.
years. Why not change it? Or why
Right.
change it?
It's an effective angle. It's worked for 20 years.
We're still friends. We don't hate each other. So,
That's true, Dana.
Mhm.
In this climate, the way things are on the internet, that's a tough thing to say over a period of almost 20 years.
I got a quick question for you, Uncle Bill. Though, like, So I seen Savannah put something on Facebook about Adam Sandler Day. What the hell is Adam Sandler Day?
Today was Adam Sandler Day at school. She works at the elementary school where the kids go to school, and they had an Adam Sandler. Everybody dressed up like a character from an Adam Sandler movie. So like some people were dressing up as like Billy Madison, some people dress up like Happy Gilmore, some people dress up like Little Nicky and shit. Like that's an
What
That,
actual
about
that,
day.
what
that's
about the
awesome to
wedding
me.
Yeah.
singer? Did anybody dress like the wedding singer?
I
Robbie
don't
Hart?
know.
We
Probably.
we didn't have anything like that when I was a kid going to school. I think like as far as like any kind of days, like we had Hat Day, and that was about the biggest one we had.
That's the same. I don't remember them ever doing anything like they do with these kids now, like when
That's
I
so
was in school.
cool.
Like, that never happened either. Yeah.
I think a lot of it has to play into like the new generation of like teachers and stuff because a lot of the teachers nowadays were probably like at the age those Adam Sandler movies came out, like they were
Yeah.
probably kids, and I think a lot that's like when our kids these days, like they'll probably like when if they become teachers at a school, years from now, they have like Five Nights at Freddy's Day or something.
No, I guarantee it'll be Marvel and some other day. Like that'll be
Yeah,
like
probably
because
so.
yeah.
That would be cool, Mayor, and I would be all for it. But CK would probably kill me if I pulled Uncle Bill away to do a debate show called Apples and Oranges.
That would
But
be
it's a
I would
big
watch
thing.
that for
That
sure.
is that's a good idea for a show
That
just in
is a
general, really.
fantastic idea. Yeah.
Yep.
Um,
Yeah, because a lot of the time you all have like difference of opinions on stuff, and that could be like kind of like a back and forth debate type show.
I'll tell you I can already tell you the first two shows. Final Exam and Terror on Tour. The first two fucking shows.
I would do it. I would definitely do it. I just don't want CK to say, "Well, you're still in my you're still my partner to do these shows." I don't want my,
Well, we ain't married, Dane. I don't think he's gonna
Yeah.
like.
no, but like you are one half of the Dead Pit show.
I'm exclusive to Dead Pit. Clearly, that's why I'm on here right
You
now.
probably signed a contract with CK.
That's
I mentioned a
kill it.
couple times. I mentioned a couple times earlier about some stuff about X Files, and that made me wonder, like, what happened to your X Files show that you was doing with Rambo and Stuntman Mark?
We did them all. We did every season and like
Oh,
both the
did you?
movies.
So did
Yeah,
you finish it
yeah,
all? Oh, I didn't know that
yeah.
you guys finished it.
Yeah, it took for hell and ever, but we finally finished it. Like that's
Did
been a
you
while
even
back.
do the new seasons too, or just the original
Yeah,
one?
yeah, we did the new ones and we did the new movie and everything. Well, wait a minute, that's not true. We briefly touched on like the newer seasons because I hadn't seen one of the newer seasons. Like I think it was the
Mhm.
last one. I'd seen the one before that, but like I hadn't
What
seen
was
the
the one?
last season.
Was it a movie that you were not looking forward to talking about?
Yeah, it was that fucking second X Files movie.
Oh yeah.
Was it?
What
Was it
the
Fight the
2000
no? Not the first one's called Fight the
Not
Future.
the Future's Killer. That's the first one. The second one was God, the 2009 one.
I can't remember what it's called either.
I can't either. Like we
It
watched,
wasn't.
we did a
It
whole
was
commentary on
forgettable.
it. I still can't remember anything about it. We did a whole commentary and watched the movie again and everything, and I can't remember anything about it.
Going back to conventions though, that's something that I seen started last year. They have an X Files convention now, and they had I think Chris Carter was there, and like all those like the Lone Gunman guys were there. There's a ton. Mitch Pileggi was there. Like a ton of people from the show was there,
Yeah,
and but like it was a lot of like just kind of like characters that were just on like this episode or that episode, just kind of not regular characters. They didn't get David Duchovny or Gillian Anderson for it, which I know that she does conventions sometimes. She was at like a fandom fest in Louisville one year. I think it was that same year that Stan Lee was there, maybe
that's
2012.
crazy. That
But
those two people together was crazy.
and it's insane to me now because, and this is a huge regret for me, is that because I wanted to meet her because I was like, when I was a kid watching the X Files, I was in love with Gillian Anderson. I
Same.
mean, I thought she was smoking hot back then. But I wanted to meet her at that show, and I'd found out that her autograph price at that time was $60. And I would pay that all day now.
Yeah, that's like the cheapest people you can get now, basically.
Because I remember back then, though, like that was super high for someone at a convention at the time. And I was like, when I found that out, I was like, fuck that. I ain't paying $60 for nobody. But then, like, I think in that same year, I paid $80 for Jamie Lee Curtis. And now, like, Kane Hodder's charging $80.
I mean, literally, the people that have been in a movie for like half a second, or like, you know, have just real small, or like the cheapest people you can get now are like $40.
Oh yeah,
like that's the cheapest autograph now. Like, and then if you want to get a picture, it's like 60. That's the bottom of the price chain now.
Unless you're meeting Lloyd Kaufman, who's still free.
Yeah.
Lloyd Kaufman's still free.
If you bought something at the table, yeah, he would like take a picture. Which means like, you could have bought anything, really.
You just have to spend at least $5 at the trauma table, and then he'll sign whatever you got.
Well, if the mayor, of which I don't think he's going to have a problem, otherwise he wouldn't have brought this up. I am going to have very soon an apples and oranges debate show. And I'm going to put 2 different things we can debate on, or maybe one thing. And if anybody wants to come on here, we can have 1 person on here with me. We could have 5 people on here with me. Whoever wants to come on with me, we will do that. I just got to figure out when I want to do that.
I don't think I'd be good for that show, Dana, because me and you agree too much on stuff.
Yeah, I mean, Uncle Bill would be good. CK would be good for some things. Like I was envisioning talking about Madman versus The Burning. See, CK's a Madman guy, and I'm a Burning person. So.
Yeah, I 100% choose Burning any day over Madman. Not to say that I don't like Madman, but like I like The Burning a lot more than I like Madman.
Oh, and speak of the devil, CK's in here. He says, Crater and be on here again. WTF, boss. Let's debate it tonight. Come on, don't make the people wait. No, I'm going to make a new show out of this. New streams out of this.
I think he's begging to be on here with us, Dana. I think is what he's saying.
Well, he can come on here if he wants to.
He can talk about like Madman. Put Madman over.
Yeah. Trash.
Is TJ still in here? What I was going to do, since we were going to have to wait to cover the rest of the Creep Show episodes, I could do apples and oranges on Wednesday if TJ would agree to that. I mean, link you up. All right, y'all gonna keep me on here all night and get me in trouble with my husband. I tell you.
He's been asleep for 7 hours.
He has been asleep for 7 hours. Wes, I'm just going to put it in the chat here.
Why do I envision Steve sleeping in like one of them hyperbaric chambers like Michael Jackson?
Or you know that part at the beginning of Austin Powers where he's like, he's frozen, he's like got his hands over. That's Steve. We'll discover Steve in like 20 years from now, frozen.
Well, if I'm going to have CK on here too, I got to get me some more caffeine, damn it. I'll be on my game.
I don't think I have any caffeine. Come think of it.
That's something I've been recently cutting out a lot of is like I still drink like pop and stuff, but it's usually like caffeine free stuff like root beer and Sprite and all that. Yeah. I don't know, man. It's like,
well, when you get older, you can't do that shit anymore because you fucking just doesn't work out.
Yeah, I feel drained like all the time. I think it's maybe I work too much or something.
Yeah, you start to crash when you do that.
I've bet if you cut my veins open, cut my arm open, the green Mountain Dew would be running out of my veins, and so would Frappuccino from Starbucks. And
She's,
energy drinks.
she's got.
I'm living off of that shit.
That's like the Hulk Hogan song. She's got the green Mountain Dew running through her veins.
But you can't beat the sweet taste that beats Mountain Dew, Mellow Yellow, baby.
That's right.
I remember.
The only person I've heard talk about zero sugar Mellow Yellow is TJ, and I think he gets it at a restaurant. Like, has anybody else seen zero sugar Mellow Yellow?
No, I've never even heard of it.
I tell you what, though, like my favorite flavor of Mellow Yellow is the peach Mellow Yellow. Have you ever had it?
No.
So they have like that custom fountain drink stuff at Wendy's, and you can get like all these like mixed flavors of like different sodas and stuff. And so like I was just looking at the options one time for Mellow Yellow, and it had like there's like a peach one, a cherry one, all these different ones, and like dude, it's good. I love it.
I bet Steve's not dreaming about anything now. Like, I think it's like, and I'm not meaning to speak ill about him, but it's like, you know how if you unplug a TV when it's on, how it'll just go like that? I think that's what happens to Steve's brain when he goes to sleep. It's just like somebody's pulled a plug.
So you're saying that he doesn't dream or anything?
Saying he's a robot.
I hardly hear him talk about having dreams, or maybe he just doesn't remember. If he was a robot, he'd have a lot more freaking energy. We could go.
Well, that's interesting because Candace has told me that before, that like that I've be talking in my sleep or something like that, but like I don't remember having any dreams or anything during that night, that same night. So that's weird. Like how like I took psychology once in college, and they were talking about all these different sleep patterns once, and it's really confusing to me. All I'm sure you know a lot about that stuff, don't you, Uncle Bill?
I know a little bit about it. Yeah, about like the rapid eye movement sleep and all that, and the
REM sleep patterns.
When you actually dream, when you get to a point when you can actually dream. Which, if you're dreaming, that means you're in a pretty good state of rest. There's a new term they throw around nowadays called what's it called? Where you sleep but you don't get any kind of rest from it. When you wake up, you feel like you're tired all the time. Non-restorative sleep. So some people don't ever reach like that deep level of sleep, and when they wake up, they feel like shit. Most of the time, it's related to like what was going on with Steve, which is that where he had to have the CPAP machine and everything.
Yeah.
Because you're having breathing troubles and you just don't ever reach that level.
Yeah, he scared me a lot before he got the CPAP machine, because he would literally just stop breathing, and then it would just come out like just in a snore or whatever. And there's CK.
I can't believe you actually came on.
I'm on here, boys. How are y'all doing tonight? One of the big reasons I come on to not only debate Madman versus The Burning finally, so we can put this discussion to rest, Uncle Bill, because it's confusing the hell. Are you people not watching the same damn movie? I'm confused.
What do you mean by that?
Okay. The only thing that The Burning has on Madman.
Don't say the raft thing. There's more.
No, just the gore itself. That's the only thing it's got. It had a special effects makeup budget. That's the only thing. The music is better in Madman. The cinematography, the killer is 10-1 better than just some old burnt crispy fucker with a roasted weenie.
I'll give you that, because I do like the look of Madman Mars over Crossy.
Can we be honest about one other thing about that movie too, The Burning? Like, it has some of the worst characters in it of all time. Fucking Jason Alexander running around trying to look like he's 20 years.
What in the world?
However old he's supposed to look. He's
Jason
clearly like,
Alexander pissing your oatmeal or what, Uncle Bill? Come on, you
Jason
don't-
Alexander's got go away heat, bulls. When I see him, I just want to go away.
I don't give a damn. He sucks in that movie, man. Like he's just all one-liners and like he's like a stand-up comedian or
What a-
something. With awful jokes.
That's the
all
only
it
thing I really like him in because I hate Seinfeld. So like,
Right.
you know, and I don't understand why that's considered like the greatest show of all time. I just don't get it. Maybe somebody can explain it
We're
to
not
me.
from
But
New York, so it's not made for us.
But also Woodstock
Sophisticated city folk.
as a character.
What about Johnny Five? He's alive.
That's him, yeah.
Yeah.
But much as I like The Burning, you know, it really is when you look at it deep down, it's just a glorified ripoff of Friday the 13th. But you know, there's a lot of slasher films that are like that. That doesn't mean that I dislike them because I love a lot of slashers that are, you know, not necessarily good. And I'm sure like a lot of people that in love with that subgenre is the same way. But yeah, like that's, I mean, because they ripped off Friday the 13th and like multiple times. I mean, like Sleepaway Camp to an extent kind of ripped off Friday the 13th, but it also has its own kind of like really twist ending that's nothing like anything else that's come out. And I mean, there's a lot of creative kills, especially like the curling iron. That's like one of the best ones in that movie.
People need to go back and watch that movie because I know everybody only talks about the ending of that movie.
It's getting ready to be deleted, so hurry and watch it. Because,
yeah, overall, that movie is really good. It's really well acted. It's really got a good death, like good kill scenes in it. Good act. It's a good movie overall. Like it's much better than The Burning.
But the best Angela. Oh, it is much better than The Burning. The best Angela is Pamela Springsteen, though.
Yeah, well, she'll never do a show, man. That's
no.
But anyway,
she's one of those people that's on my like bucket list too to meet. But she'll I don't think she'll ever do a convention.
Nah, she's got too much money. She don't need the horror fans' money. She does. They couldn't even get her back to film to do photos for the promotional shit for those movies. Mm-hmm. This was back right after she shot them. So they shot them pretty much back to back, I think. But anyway,
she is the great white buffalo of like interviews,
and will remain so, I would imagine.
Yeah, but anyway, The Burning ain't that good, and Madman's highly underrated.
Let me share with y'all something about my history with Madman. Now,
oh God.
I know that CK thinks that you guys turned a lot of people on to Madman.
No, I didn't. I don't think that Madman himself would freaking tell you that, Dana. Right? He credits Dead Pits in interviews. We were the ones that got him out of hiding, boys. We were the very first interview that he did back and all that shit. So it's not just me. It's the damn truth.
Well, I'll just say for me, I saw Madman years and years and years before I even knew about Dead Pit, before I met you guys. And what I was doing was I was looking at a horror movie review book, and I came across this review for Madman, and I was like, oh, this sounds like it'd be my type of movie. And so I went to Waxworks, and it was a place in Owensboro, which was about 30 minutes from where my parents' house was. And I asked them if they had this movie, Madman. They said, no, we don't, but we can order it for you. And that was my introduction to Madman.
So you bought Madman like years and years ago. I bet you spent a lot of money on it too. Or was this the Anchor Bay VHS, like the newer one that you got?
Well, I think what I got was a DVD. I got a DVD.
Oh, I thought you were talking like back in the VHS days.
Oh, no, not that far back.
You want to know a funny story about Madman, though? I don't know if anybody, or I don't know if a lot of people know this or not, but I actually saw Madman first because I actually bought the Anchor Bay DVD.
This when we were spine hunting for Anchor Bay titles, yeah.
Yep.
And we come across all kinds of killer shit. Just
and
looking
I
for
was
that
like,
little sailboat.
I was like, this is one. I told CK, I was like, this is one you need to watch because I think you'll like it. And I think he liked it like way more than I did.
Yeah, when
Like,
I heard that, I
like,
like it was one of those deals. When I first heard that song at the end, I got fucking chill bumps. I loved it so damn much. I
Now
was like,
that song
holy shit.
is really cool. That is like one of the things I remember most about that movie is the song at the end, because I
And I'll
mean
tell
you didn't
you,
hear anything else like that in horror films at the time.
when we did Crater, were you at the Madman screening that we did down here?
Yeah, that's something I was going to ask. You just reminded me of it. Was that show that Paul Ehlers did, that Friday Night Film Fest, when you guys helped bring him into that show?
Yeah.
Was that his first convention?
I think he may have done a Chiller convention that's up there near where he lives in New York. And I know that he attended shows as a fan for years because he's a big horror fan too. But I don't know. I'd have to ask him. I'm not for certain. He'll randomly like call every once in a while. It's from like some New York number, and then I'm like, oh fuck, it's Madman Bulls. So I will ask him next time he calls if that was the first one that he did. Yeah, that was like 2009, I think. And we did a screening at the drive-in theater in 2009. And then we did another screening here in Prestonsburg at the Strand, which
Yeah, we were there for that, and Steve fell asleep in the middle.
they're
I was at
remodeling the
that.
Strand right now, by the way.
Yeah.
what are they going to do with it, by the way?
Well,
they want to turn into a bank or something.
Probably.
No. I mean, they tore the middle wall down, so it was a twin. Originally, it was one big theater, and that's what it's going to be again. But I think that they're going to do like live music and stuff like that. Maybe they'll do movies every once in a while or something. But
did Les Stapleton buy it? Because I saw his ass was the one selling shit.
He's the one selling all that stuff. Yeah,
I think so. I don't know for certain, but yeah, that's why I didn't.
I figured you would have go buy that because he had posters, but it looked like all that shit was fucked up beyond.
It was like an inch of grime, and most of it looked like it was new stuff.
Yeah, that's what. But I messaged you and asked you about that, Wes, and you said it looked like to you mostly modern stuff.
Like all of the cool horror stuff was still on the walls in there. Because what the Strand did back in the day is they sold these posters. Like after the movies ran and stuff, they would have them like a big, tube of posters you could go through and get for $5. So Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street, Return of the Living Dead, and all that stuff was probably sold back in the 80s. But they did have like Amityville 3, I think. Creature was up. Because remember, they put these on the wall, Uncle Bill.
Yeah.
For the very last show that they ever did there, which was Poltergeist.
Yep.
That we did. But anyway.
I do not understand how they're going to remodel that place, man. That's going to cost a damn fortune.
The photos that I've seen, damn. Yep. It looks rough. But I hope they do. I mean, at the very least, if they can get that marquee cleaned up, paint it, get it working again, they can do music in there. I don't give a shit. But I would love to see that marquee put up.
That Les Stapleton said that, he didn't exactly go into detail what they were going to be doing with that building, but, he did like a live the other day where he was like going through there and showing what stuff looked like now, and how bad a shape it's in. But he did say, whatever that does become there, that they were going to keep the Strand sign up there and I guess kind of restore that just to look at it as like a landmark or something, I guess.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I would think that anybody with any common sense, but it was Les Stapleton, so.
Mm-hmm.
God.
Yeah, that's all that needs to be said.
Some of the prices they were selling that shit for, like, they had like did you see the San Antonio sign that they had, like the pig on siesta?
They were selling like an old like movie projector for what, like $1,000, $2,000,
$2,000.
Yeah,
And it's probably like a fire hazard. You couldn't even hook it up
it
now,
don't,
or
you
from
know
the
it doesn't work.
30s.
Ain't no way.
Dana, did you said you came to that Madman screening at the Strand, right?
Yeah, I was
Was
in the drive-in too for that screening of
I
it.
thought the
was
one at
that
the Strand was way more fun to me. I don't know if Dana thought that, but
Yeah, I
was that,
enjoyed it. I just wish Steve hadn't been snoring. That was kind of embarrassing to me.
was that the only time that you got to see a film at the Strand?
I I think so. Yeah, pretty
Yeah,
sure.
I spent a lot of my childhood at that theater, and like how Wes was talking about how they would get rid of the movie posters after the movies would show and stuff. I remember going and seeing the original Jurassic Park there like 3 or 4 times at least, and then a little bit after the they took the film out of theaters. One of the ladies that worked there recognized me one of the next times I came in, and she gave me a Jurassic Park poster after that. So yeah, I loved that place growing up.
I still think one of the coolest things that we ever did associated with the show was those midnight movies that we had
Oh
for
yeah.
a year or so.
It was. Those were awesome. Like, it was an awesome thing.
I, I
I
still
wish they
have
could go on.
I still have a stack of flyers that you gave me years ago when you were promoting the screening for Nightmare on Elm Street Part 4, I think it was. And there's somewhere laying around this house somewhere. I have a whole stack you
I've
sent
got
me.
all of them, like all the ones that I've got left, like the poster size ones. I've got them out there in storage, like for all the ones that we ever did, and actually a couple that we never did get to do that we never did get to hand out. Prom night was one, Dana. We had prom night ready to go.
Yeah.
So
I think me and Steve are actually going to come to that one.
Yeah.
yeah,
And I know y'all did a Halloween 4 screening too, and this is not somebody I've thought of in a long time, but Critter Fan actually came and sit with me and Candace at that Halloween 4 screening.
mm-hmm.
And
Yeah, that one was almost sold out. I think it was like packed.
and was it Tim that you had walking around dressed as Michael Myers?
Yeah, he
At that
loved doing that.
What's
He
killer
was
about that is I remember Tim, like, one of his gimmicks in it was that he's supposed to like go in there and like carry this woman out.
he couldn't hardly
He
carry.
couldn't barely get her up, like, to carry her out. And it was like him. He about fell over trying to do it. It was killer.
Though, no shit. The only screening that we did that had a standing ovation at the end was Madman. Now that's why that one will always be like the most memorable for me. Even though we sold more tickets than a lot of the other ones, but
yeah, I don't. People that came there probably had no idea what they were in for, and the ones that did know what they were in for were probably marking out that it was on the big screen.
And guess what? That's the only 35 millimeter print that I still have, boss. We could play it again someday, maybe.
I tell you, there's a drive-in, or there was a drive-in about 10 minutes from where I live right now. It's going towards Jackson, and it was called Way Back When Drive-In. And when me and Candace first started dating, like first couple summers we was together, we was like going like every weekend to that drive-in. It just sucks that that's something that's slowly diminishing over time as more and more of these drive-ins are going away. And if that's something that somebody that's listening to this, if you have never been to a drive-in before, because it was late in my life. The first time I went to a drive-in was when I watched The Exorcist at the one in Louisville during Friday Night Film Fest. That was my first time I ever went to a drive-in. And I'm just telling you all, like, if you've never been to one, it's a completely different experience from any other of watching a film. And it's probably my favorite way to watch films because, like, it's just, I don't know, there's just something nostalgic about it. It's really, really cool to me.
I think those were my favorite shows too, were the Georgetown drive-in shows that Ken did back in the day.
Mhm.
Like I thought that was a really great idea. Had
I
him-
liked the Kentucky theater ones that they did for Scarefest too.
Yeah, they don't do those anymore, do they?
I don't think so. No, I mean we got to see a bunch of cool shits there for a few years. Like, wasn't it Return of the Living Dead was one year? I think.
Well, there's I
Uh,
remember Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Return of the Living
Yeah.
Dead. I know me and Justin went to one where they played Friday the 13th Part 7, which like Kane Hodder was in attendance, I guess, for that.
hmm
Gunnar Hansen was in attendance for the Texas Chainsaw Massacre one.
Yeah, they did like a little brief Q&A, I think, before
Yeah.
the.
I remember I think we were all there to get I know me and Candace and you and Uncle Bill and Dana, I'm pretty sure you were there, you and Steve, because I think you all might have been together at the time when they showed Return of the Living Dead. But it seems like we were all
Creep
there
Show
for
was one too,
Creep,
right?
yeah, that's what I was going to say. I think we were all there for Creep Show as well.
I do remember Friday 13th Part 7. I remember Uncle Bill and CK being right behind me and my cousin Heather. Y'all remember that? And Uncle Bill, you drove us back to our hotel because you didn't want us walking around in the dark. And
that makes sense. Yeah.
Uncle Bill was a gentleman. He said, "Here, I'll take y'all
He
back."
didn't want y'all to get got, bulls.
It's a bad
Hey,
area.
that is where that Kentucky theater is. It is a pretty sketchy area, so I can completely understand and Uncle Bill wanting to help y'all out.
He's the
What
thoughtful.
was it, real quick though? Because I can't remember this now. There was one of those drive-ins that we went to for those Georgetown drive-in things. Where what was it that happened? It was something.
Are you talking about the?
Dana, what was it? Because I can't remember it now. But
Are
it
you
was
going
something.
to try to get me in trouble?
No,
Yes.
Well, I see what CK's getting at, but
Didn't Steve say something about
he
it?
said something that got him called a bad name, I think.
Yo, cocksucker, Steve.
I swear to God, I can't remember what that drama was about now. But I know that there was drama around that
Okay.
one show.
I can tell you what the drama was with the drive-in, going to the drive-in. I don't know if I should mention this person's name because I don't want to make this person upset.
You don't want to get food, Dana.
The person,
God.
so people that were at Fright Night that year in 09 will know who this person is. They will know who I'm talking about because it's the person that I came to the convention with. And I know that CK and Uncle Bill know who it is.
I forgot. I don't know. I don't know who you went with. I have no idea. who this
Whatever.
person is.
Yeah, right.
If I can remember it, I'm pretty sure he does.
He didn't she get well, we won't have to say her name, but like when
She got lost going.
she was
to the
pissed
drive-in.
off too. Like wasn't she vocally like mad and cussing?
He was
She was
fucking
mad and like she was saying all kinds of bad things about you, CK, when we were going to the drive-in. We hadn't even got there yet because I guess she thought that you guys were going to wait for her so she could follow you.
I wasn't even driving then, so I don't know why the hell
Yeah.
she was mad at me.
Was
Oh,
But I mean,
Well,
I always
mad
get
at
the brunt of
everybody.
everything else, so I'm used to it. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's just the way that I act or something, but I'm always the first to blame for every fucking thing, and that's okay.
That's a new shirt right there. First to blame.
It's
Yeah,
controversial.
I didn't even. I couldn't drive back then. I didn't even have a driver's license then.
Steve was the one driving y'all around. It
Yeah,
you
Steve was
and
our
Bill
chauffeur.
and Critter
So
Fan.
blame old fucking Sleepy Steve.
Steve was acting kind of crazy that night. I don't know if he had some. I hope he hadn't had too much alcohol if he was driving y'all
Yeah.
around.
Was that the same weekend? Because like they showed Madman one night and then The Exorcist another night. Was that the same one?
They showed The Exorcist that same night.
Oh, did they? Well,
I thought
I
it was
remember
playing on a different screen or something.
the
Because
GI
the
Joe was
G.I.
like
Joe movie.
That's
on.
what I remember. I remember like
Yeah,
how fucking awful that was and trying to watch that.
goddamn GI Joe boys.
I don't even remember anything
That's
about it.
the weirdest double feature of all time.
And I
GI Joe,
I do remember that
Madman.
person like being out there and just being madder than a wet hen, just sitting on the ground there.
I need some marijuana.
And we just couldn't like can't wait to get the fuck out of there.
I was like trying not to laugh because it was one of those things where like y'all growing up, like you staying with a buddy or something like that, and their parent gets pissed off or something, and you just can't help but laugh because that's kind of what it was. Like she was getting so fucking mad and tore up. I was like, oh.
And remember, we couldn't even drive the vehicles into where the screens were at first. We had to go back and get the vehicles and then come
Yeah.
back for
That was the last straw right there. God damn it. No.
And I remember you guys were saying, "Why don't you obviously didn't have
It's
room
right, I didn't drink it.
for me, but I guess I would have had to sit on somebody's lap or something." But I don't think I could have crushed myself back there with Uncle Bill and Critter Fan. But
That's the thing though, like that always sucked about those conventions is, and I mean, it's not like we didn't want to hang out with people or anything like that, but like everybody always thought we should go as a group and do everything as a group, and that's fucking very difficult to do if you've got 13 or 14 people that are wanting to tag along.
I mean, if there's just a few of you, maybe like 4 or 5 or something like that. I mean, it's very doable. But like you're saying, like where we had such a large group, it was always tough to kind of keep track of everything we were doing on a schedule or something like that.
yeah.
But Dana, you were tore up like new ground. I do remember that. Like after that whole thing was over with, you were tore up like Food City's
You were
parking lot.
like, let's find my cousin for the next time, baby. I ain't doing this. I ain't gonna be stuck like this anymore.
Wasn't she smoking weed in her cars?
Okay, so let me tell this story. Okay, so I'm sure her daughter knew that she smoked pot, and I'm almost willing to guarantee that her daughter knew. But anyway, her daughter was with her, and we were all sharing the hotel room. And so she said to me, she said, "I'm going to go outside and smoke. Do you want to walk outside with me?" And I thought, she's going to light up a cigarette. She can't smoke in the hotel. She's going to light up a cigarette because I knew she smoked cigarettes. So when we got out the front doors.
What's so funny about this too now? You people that know Dana on this show and stuff, it was not the same Dana.
No, it was not.
From 2009 or whenever this was. Dana, like as far as you were just you were extremely quiet.
Dana was a babe in the woods at that point.
Yeah, and yeah, you were like on to us. You thought it was bad that we were like drinking alcohol or something like that. You would mention that. It's like that. But poor little Dana is going with this lady that's getting higher than a kite in her car and driving.
Okay, so we went out the front doors of the hotel, and as soon as we hit the outside, she turned to me and she said, I smoke cigarettes, right? And I was like, yeah, I know you smoke cigarettes. She said, well, I also smoke pot too. And my brain just went like that. And I guess everybody else knew her, that knew that she smoked pot.
Actually, Dana, it was more like this.
You know I smoke cigarettes, right?
Oh, man.
I smoke marijuana too.
So I didn't know what to do. So we got in her car, and she takes out a little tin and opens it up, and there's some joints in there. And he said, "You want a hit off of this or whatever?" And I'm like, "No, thanks." And I'm thinking, like, this is before I knew Goose real well, and y'all are gonna think this is hilarious because I knew that Goose was a cop. I knew, even though he was out of his jurisdiction, he was at this convention, and all I could think was, "Oh my God, I'm gonna have pot smell on me. I'm gonna get arrested."
It'd have been the funniest damn thing to be arrested by Goose. It was
But
really.
I'll
For
just tell you
having
this
like
right now. Goose don't give a shit.
for having pot smoke on your clothes. That's
No.
like pot. I'm
And then
going
I
to
was
jail.
afraid to breathe. Afraid I was going to get a contact high from it. I was, trying to hold my breath and stuff. So I would
She's
Well, I can understand that, Dana, because like I've been in that situation before. Back when I didn't do like smoke or drink or nothing. And then like if I got around somebody like that did and they did it like regularly, I would get paranoid as hell because like it was always just beat into my head growing up by my parents, like don't ever get around stuff like that or you'll turn into this like horrible person or something. and,
Crater,
and
you
we're like,
were straight edge for a while, weren't you? Like that was the
for
whole thing.
yeah, for like from like 2000 until like 2008 or something like that.
Until he started going to conventions.
That's
I
what did
think
it.
that's what
Well,
messed me up
yeah,
was going to conventions.
about a year before I started going to conventions is when it started kind of going downhill when it comes to that kind of stuff for me.
Yeah, and I've told the story about Chris and like he won't mind.
Yeah, I
And
don't
I'm
remember
sure,
that at all, but
yeah, I don't mind you do, but remember the year that the Fright Night was like, I don't know if it was
it was
2010 or
2010. I'm pretty sure because it was right before me and Candace started dating.
so Uncle Bill, if I remember correctly, you refused to stay at the hotel where the convention was at because
You said that, but did I do that? Wes, do you
Yeah.
remember that? Like I don't remember.
Well, let me tell you
I
something
do-
else about Dana.
I
She
do
has a
remember that.
photographic memory. I don't know how she remembers the shit.
I
I
can't
don't remember it, but
something
it's
that happened
possible.
5 seconds ago, but I can remember something
It's
7 years ago.
I'm guessing that we were just fucked up and like the memories of that. Like there was a show, now this may be the same show, where we played music and stuff. Is this the same show?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll play
Yeah.
music. Mhm.
I don't know what the fuck went on that night. I just remember we brought guitars and stuff.
That's
And
what I'm saying, man. Like I don't remember, like, because I think I was so wasted. I forgot a lot of stuff. But Dana tells this story, and like I was like, I don't remember any of that.
Probably because Dane's the only one sober. She's sitting
Well,
there watching.
I was drinking a little bit, but I remember that CK was mixing like Jaeger bombs, and I remember drinking one of those, and it's the first time I'd ever drank a Jaeger bomb. I said, "This stuff tastes like Robitussin."
It did.
they're the bomb diggity.
That and Mad Dog 2020.
Did you get a shit tooth grin at that show? Were we doing shit tooth grins then, or was that later on?
all that?
Shit Tooth Grin was Bubba Cola and Crown Royales. That was some
Yeah.
good shit.
But
What Dana does say does ring true, though, is that I do remember that actually about you staying off site from that hotel, Uncle Bill. Like
I
I
thought
think
he
it had.
stayed like across the street.
Yeah, so he didn't stay the full weekend or something, and I think Wes was staying with Steve in a room maybe, and
I
like
think
and
Steve
that,
just ended up passing out in CK's room. I think he just drank so much he just couldn't go anywhere.
but
That sounds.
I
That
do
sounds.
I do remember another time though, like when Wes and Steve were staying together in a room. It was during the first Darkwoods in Pikeville,
Oh,
and
God.
Now I've heard
Oh,
this.
no.
and I hung out with them. I think it like either Saturday night or something like that, and I ended up sleeping on the floor. When I woke up next morning, like my back was out, and
Dude,
and I
that
like
Crater,
walked.
you can vouch for this, though, man. And I'm not shitting you. Like, I snore, and you might snore, too. There is nobody in my life that I've ever heard that snored like fucking Steve.
He's pretty loud.
Oh,
He's
my
loud. You're talking to
God.
the person that's married to him.
I couldn't believe it. The only one that come close, now and these guys are pretty close, was Rob Scott. I spent the night with him one time, and he was almost as bad as Steve. But yeah, you're talking like all night. And I was like, God damn, well, I ain't be able to sleep at all, and I'm
I've
fucked
never
up.
heard myself snore, but Candace says I'm pretty bad. So
Well, I don't remember you snoring at all, though. Then it was all
That's probably just
Steve-O.
passed out. I don't know.
Okay, so I got to tell my crater story or the Chris
Oh,
story
God.
and the Steve
Yeah.
story from that
Yeah.
from 2010. Okay, so I remember Chris, like, I don't know how much he had drank. I wasn't paying attention to really how much people were drinking.
Well, it was a lot because like Joe just kept feeding me drinks that night, and
Joe was like, he was three sheets to the wind, and he was coming up to me and like singing my theme song to they weren't streams, but my videos back then. He was singing that AC/DC song. But anyway, so all of a sudden Chris gets up and goes to the front of the room and says, I'm gonna go back to my hotel room. Okay. So he leaves, and I'd say about approximately 10 minutes later, here comes Chris back in the room. Again, he's standing in the front of the room, and somebody, I don't remember who said this, said, "What's the matter, Crater?" And his head is down like this. He says, "I forgot where my hotel room was," and the whole room just busted out laughing. The other thing that happened was Steve got really, really drunk, and that's probably why he ended up passing out in CK's room. But so somebody had gotten Crystal Skull vodka when we went to the liquor bar.
I think Steve got it.
Did Steve get it, or did
Yeah, because
Rob
I was well, it could have been Rob. There was I was wanting it, but I wasn't gonna pay $60 for it or whatever
Right,
the hell it
exactly.
was.
Well,
This
the
was right
reason
when it first came out, I think.
I love my husband, but the reason why I don't think it was Steve is because Steve's too cheap to buy something like that. I mean, let's
Yeah, I
just
remember
be
it may
honest.
have been Rob then. I don't remember, but yeah,
But
somebody got it. It was
in
not me.
any event, Steve got a hold of it. He came to the front of the room, and there used to be video of this, and there probably still is video floating around. I didn't do the video, but Steve takes a sip out of that Crystal Skull vodka. And if you have kids in the room with you at this late hour, please get them out here.
There ain't nobody in here got no kids with him at fucking what is it, 11, almost 11 o'clock,
Well,
baby.
you
Come
never
on.
know.
Get out of here, kids.
But Uncle Bill's kids could be creeping around somewhere.
Well, they've heard way worse shit than this, I'm sure.
Guarantee it.
But Steve gets up in the front of the room, takes a sip of that, and he says, "This water tastes like fucking vodka." And the whole room breaks up again when he did that. That's two of the things I remember, in addition to Joe being very drunk and
That could have been any day of the week.
Yeah,
bless
right.
his heart. Yeah.
Well, Joe was just drunk. Very drunk for Joe. I think we maybe only experienced once or twice.
Well, remember the was it the Friday the 13th 5? Like, was it? I don't know if it was a drunken commentary or what, but Joe was drunk. And Felsher was up in the front of the room.
He was fucking
knew
with
this
Belcher,
one,
yeah.
And Felsher said, "Will you shut the fuck up?" At one point.
He was so yeah, because Joe just kept like hacking on him and stuff throughout the whole thing. He's like, "You're not funny."
And I remember I think I was sitting by you, Uncle Bill, and I was sitting between you and Steve. I think Steve was on the end of the row, and then there was me, and then there was you and CK. But anyway, Joe started out at the back of the room. And the next thing I knew, he was behind me, jingling his keys at me. And then the next thing I knew, he was passed out behind us. He was just laying in the row behind us, passed out.
See, now, I'm sure I was at that, but I don't really have a whole lot of memories of that.
I
But
remember him
what?
torturing. I remember him torturing Slippy. Like I
Yeah,
definitely remember
Oh,
that
yeah.
I
because
kind
I
of
was like,
remember that.
"What the fuck?" Because he was just like he hated Slippy. I don't know why, but like he always did.
He
I
always
think
thought, yeah, he
Well,
was
it
not.
was mutual there.
Yeah, he always thought Sleepy was like the most unfunny person. Something like that on those commentaries.
Yeah.
the only one I really like remember though, and I can't remember the name of the movie because it was the only time I ever watched it because I didn't really care for it. But you all did like a drunken commentary for it, and Felsher was there. I remember Joe being there. Pretty much everybody. It's the movie where like he's got the real creepy kid in it, and he says "mama" a lot, and he like
Burial
bites
Oh,
his
Ground.
hand.
burial
Yeah,
ground.
Burial Ground. And that's the one I do remember because like there was a guy in the back of the when you all first started that screening, and Felsher and you all was like doing like commentary over the movie,
Oh, I
and then
remember
there was
this.
some guy in the back like he got mad and just stood up and he said, "So this like what is this fucking Mystery Science Theater?"
I remember that too vividly. Yeah.
I think I remember that too.
Sleepy may watch that shit, but I mean, I know what it is, but I've never really watched it, so no influence for me at all. The thing I was going to mention to you guys, though, and everybody that's in the chat and everything, if you want to relive those memories, Dead Pit on Patreon.com. I think we have all of the
Like I did that.
commentaries. Not only the drunken commentaries at conventions, but the drunken commentaries we did at the Dead Pit Studio, which was fucking insane. Holy shit. I think one night we did Hostel and the Fog remake together. I think that was the combo. And we drunk through, like, I don't know how many different bottles, like Jägermeister, Montezuma tequila, all kinds of shit. Mr. and Mrs. T's margarita mix, that was our go-to back in the day. To
Was
make
that the one
margaritas.
where we actually like I wasn't able to leave. I just stayed at your house. and
Yeah,
slept
you just
the
laid on the
floor.
couch or something like
I
that.
think you
I
were
was
pretty wasted during that.
Yeah, there was no way. And
I
I
was
only lived like
talking to
2 minutes.
Dana. I was talking to Dana about those commentaries you all would do back in the day when you would like you all would transfer them onto DVDs and sell them at the conventions and stuff. And the one that always like stood out to me the most was that Twilight drunken commentary you all did. And I think that to this day, that's probably my favorite one.
Yeah. Man, like the phenomenon that was the Twilight movies, I still don't get. I don't understand it all because I went, I had like a very rare date when the second one came out. And we went to a 2 a.m. showing of this in Paintsville. And I didn't know anything about it. I'd never seen the second or the first movie or anything. And there were people lined up. And this movie started playing, and it looked like the cheapest, most generic piece of shit. And I was like, "What the fuck? This is like a B movie, essentially." It's really what it
Yeah,
was.
it was crazy, man. That whole like just fan base in the beginning of all that. I remember they were just you would see it all over the internet, on TV, and everything was. And
That
that's
died out fast, didn't it?
Yep.
Yeah, I think that's Candace's mom's favorite, some of her favorite movies, and she's like read the books and everything. So she's one of them twihards, I guess you call them.
I
My
guess.
my favorite, still to this day, my favorite video that we've ever done, and we've done a lot of like great videos in terms of like just stupid shit. But my favorite one to this day, I still go back and watch it and die laughing. Is us just driving around the Strand
Oh,
Theater
that was hilarious.
when one of those Twilight movies came out, and like he would like Wes was in the passenger seat and he rolled down his window, and so the first he just screams like let's go Team Jacob or Team Edward or something like that. So like they
People would
they
cheer.
start clapping. So they think that like whatever, and then like we pull around again and he goes, "Let's hear it for Dakota fan."
And by that point, they were like, they're making fun of us, boys.
And it was just
Yeah.
great. Like It
I'll tell you what my introduction to Dead Pit was, and because Justin is the one that introduced me to Dead Pit, and this is before I'd ever listened to any one of your all shows or anything, but it was something I wish you all would definitely bring back at some point. Is the Hillbilly Horror Theater Pet Cemetery?
Oh,
Now,
that's great.
yep.
and I don't
Well,
even think you don't have that uploaded anymore on the channel, do you, Wes?
it's on Patreon.
Oh, is it on page? Okay, because man, that's
YouTube took it down, I think, because of copyright or whatever.
yeah. To this day, that's my favorite thing you all ever did. Plus, your dad's a part of it, so
Yeah, no, my dad did the
Mickey
voiceover
Magnet.
for the intro. Yeah, yeah.
I'll
So,
tell you what, a video my mom always liked that had Wes's dad on it was the one where y'all went to that wrestling show.
Oh God.
And Wes's dad was driving, and my mom
That's a
came
good
in there
one.
while I was watching the video. She just came in my room, and she said, "Is that Wes's dad?" I said, "Yeah, that's Wes's dad." "Well, I like him," she said. I
Yeah.
said, "Well, I like him too. I think a lot of people like him."
Yeah,
So,
Candace says that a lot too. Candace talks about Mike, and she said what a good person he was and everything. I don't think we ever met your mom though.
I can't remember. I don't know if you did or not. My mom was one of those people that would never say anything bad about anybody. Like I can't say the same for me because I make fun of people all the time. That's kind of my favorite pastime. But she would like, no shit. I never recall her ever speaking bad about anybody ever.
Yeah,
you know,
So
that's
she's one of those people.
Candace's mom is too. She's a sweetheart.
Wes, I don't think I ever told you this, but when you and Sarah got married, at y'all's wedding, like after the wedding, where everybody was just kind of talking and kind of mingling around afterwards, I remember your mom coming up to me and Steve and thanking us for being such good friends to you. And it was just like, it was the nicest thing ever. Nobody has ever done that with me before.
Yeah,
Uh, so yeah, your mom and dad were some of the best people ever. I
Yeah.
sadly I never got to meet uh, Aaron's dad, and I've never gotten to meet his mom, but I always thought his mom seemed very sweet and stuff. So
Well,
yeah. I'm bored.
here's the thing, and I'm gonna get a little bit serious with you all for a minute. I'll try
mhm.
not to. And I know Candace lost her father last year.
Yeah,
So, and this is the thing that I don't think people get until it actually happens. It's not, to me, it's not just the holidays. The first Christmas is bad. First, Thanksgiving and Christmas and everything. But it's like every day. Like it's nothing. You don't ever fully get over it because there's that void there and it's always there. Right. So, I mean, I think about both of my folks um, every day, multiple times every day still, and it's been close to 5 years.
yeah.
Yeah.
I was gonna say that Candace's dad, yeah, he passed away December 11th of last year, right before Christmas, actually. So that just made it, even tougher on because where it was just so close to the holidays. And he was more than just my father-in-law to me. He was like one of my best buddies. I would go, and there was many times I'd go and sit with him, and just like we just watch movies or show, or just talk about just random stuff. And he was just like another, not just like a father-in-law, but he was just like another dad that I had, and he would always call me his boy and stuff. And he's a good dude, man. I miss him a lot.
I think it's harder too for I don't know about you, Wes, but for me it is because I live right next to his house. I mean, and you live in the house for you.
Yeah.
So like everything reminds me of dad. Like when I walk outside, like I'm looking right at his house. Like and it automatically like reminds me of him. And yeah,
I,
I don't ever like go a day without thinking about him or wishing that I could talk to him. Like that never
well,
happened.
and the thing with you too is like there's other people living in the house, and I don't know how I would feel about that. It's kind of, I don't know. Maybe it's easier, maybe not. I don't know.
in some ways it is, like, because it's almost like it's not his house anymore. Like, it's not.
Right.
It was much harder when it was just sitting there and like there wasn't anybody there. Like, because I just still think about that stuff. But I will tell you one thing about Wes's dad, because I was there probably almost every day for years. I mean, and that's no exaggeration. I think it was at least that, like almost at least every other day. His dad was one of the funniest human beings that ever existed, too. And some of the shit that he said, he wasn't intentionally trying to be funny, but it was the funniest shit. Like
Just the way he talked. Yeah.
we'd be watching something, and he'd be reading a newspaper over there, laying on a chair, and he'd just like look over the newspaper and go, "Well, this is a bunch of fucking trash. Y'all are watching trash."
That's filth.
He'd go, Wes, turn this fucking.
Do you
trash off."
remember? This was back, I guess, whenever the DVD of the Beyond came out. And there was an Easter egg on the Beyond that had the Cat in the Brain trailer.
Oh yeah.
And we were looking this up. And my mom and dad both were in there when we played it because we didn't know what it was. I mean, hell, I figured it was going to be kind of gory. And then he got legit pissed. He was like, "You get that filth out of my house. I don't want that in here."
He did. That was so cute.
But yeah, I mean, I couldn't ask for better parents. I just busted something over here.
Was your dad not? I know that Uncle Bill's dad was a big horror fan, but was your dad a horror fan at all, Wes?
Not really. No.
Well,
He was never really into it. But we had like a lot of other stuff in common. I mean, he would always.
he was a wrestling fan, right? Because you all went to WrestleMania 8.
Kind of, yeah. I mean, he liked wrestling and sports and stuff. We would go to the UK football games, had season tickets for that. We both loved that. And music. We like close to the same music. What's weird now is my dad was a hardcore bluegrass fan. And I didn't really even appreciate it until he passed away.
I was thinking like your taste in music now is probably like more what your dad's taste in music was then. Like, I mean,
right.
Back then
Like I'll find these artists now that he probably would have loved or whatever. And you can't say, "Hey, listen to this, let me know what you think," or whatever. So
Dana, you got a lot of stuff like kind of passed down to you from your dad. I think you've said in the past.
The thing is, both of my parents went to the drive-in a lot when they were dating. When early in their marriage, they went to the drive-ins a lot. So then there are snippets of things that I remember because they took both me and my brother, even when my brother was a baby in the baby carrier, they would take him. But I was older, so I was 6 years older than my brother. So I remember little bits and pieces. Like I remember mom and dad going to the drive-in and singing prom night. Because it's weird how your mind works, because I can remember the whole thing about the kids chasing little Robin around and saying the killers are coming, and her falling out the window. But I didn't remember much else about it. I remember parts of the movie Death Ship. I don't know how many people have seen Death Ship, because
I tried to forget most parts of that movie.
Wait a minute, are you talking what Death Ship are you talking about? Or wait, that's Ghost Ship, isn't it?
No, it's got George Kennedy in it.
This one was like, what, 80, 81, somewhere like that, and had George Kennedy on it, and he gets possessed by.
Did George? Here's what I'm wondering though. Around that time period, did George Kennedy have like back taxes that he owed because he was doing like these smaller roles in these shitty ass horror movies in like the early 80s?
He was in Just Before Dawn, wasn't he?
Right, and you could tell they filmed all that crap in like probably one day.
Yeah,
the George Kennedy stuff. He was like riding around a fucking horse.
But I probably had my mom mostly to thank for me getting into horror. I mean, my dad has watched a few horror movies with me, but mom was always the one that, way back when I was a kid, watching Friday the 13th and stuff like that. I don't think she ever really got into Nightmare on Elm Street, but the Friday the 13th stuff, the slasher type stuff, that's what she was into. And when she was a little girl, she used to put in those wax vampire teeth and go chasing her sisters around saying, I want to suck your blood. I mean, my mom was just like that. And because she was the way she was, I think that transferred over to me. But now mom doesn't really care much for slasher movies and stuff. So I have this fear I'm just going to wake up one day and not like slasher movies anymore.
No, I don't think there's any chance that
You
ever
don't think
happens.
that's going to happen to me?
No.
No way. My dad, though, like he was really the one that introduced me into like horror films, a lot of the like the classic stuff growing up. And I don't think that was particularly because he just wanted me to like horror films. It's just if you know my dad, that was just like he just had a kind of a twisted sense of humor where he wanted to scare the shit out of me all the time. So he would just rent like uh Texas Chainsaw Massacre and all the Night on Elm Street stuff, and he's like, "Come here and watch this, bub, with me." And, and like he knows a lot of it would like freak me out at a really young age because he showed me, you know, like all the Night on Elm Street, I said Friday 13th, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Night of the Living Dead, all that stuff, you know, that I grew to love and do more research on. Me and him this day, you know, we talk about horror movies all the time. Now nowadays he's mostly into like the older stuff, the black and white horror films. That's just he said he don't really like anything past that much anymore. Like, and he always watches Svengoolie every Saturday night. He don't miss an episode. So that's
I
good to
think
have something like that in common with him, I guess.
what's funny is I realized that with my dad that he wasn't really like doing like by showing me these movies or anything, he wasn't really even like trying to show me anything. My dad was just doing like whatever the fuck he wanted to do, and I just happened to be there. That's what I've come to
Yeah,
realize. He was just watching like whatever he wanted to watch, and I was just kind of like there for the ride. Like he
Well,
really wasn't.
with my dad, I mean, the movies in general, I think was because of him. I mean, he was the one that bought the VCR and went to rent some of these wild ass movies. Like, I remember I was sleeping on the couch. I was probably 9 years old, 10 years old, something like that. And Arlie Ermey's diatribe at the beginning of Full Metal Jacket woke me up. And I was acting like I was kind of still asleep, but I was watching. Right, my dad had rented it, and I was like, "This is the best fucking movie I've ever seen." You know, some of the stuff that he was saying. You could suck a golf ball through a garden hose. You know. But yeah, I mean, when it comes to my dad and horror movies, he would watch them from time to time, but that just wasn't his thing. Like he'd always tell me the story of when he was a kid, Wheelwright Junction, which was a huge coal town back when he was a kid, had a big, nice theater and everything. And I think it was the giant Gila monster that was playing in the theater. And on the way home from the theater, he saw something that he thought was a Gila monster. I don't know what kind of lizard it was or whatever. And he said that his little fat ass run all the way home. He'd never been more out of breath in his whole life.
That reminds
And
me
he
of a
was,
story that James Cooley tells in the Dead Pit documentary about when he said he was a kid. He went to like a screening of the original Frankenstein, and he said that like it scared him so bad he ran all the way home.
yeah.
I tell you
Well,
one of the funniest things ever though, still to this day to me, was us like watching them fucking Fulci films with Mike sitting on that couch.
Yeah,
Because you got to imagine, like, he was completely 100% not into any of that stuff, like gore and all that stuff. And just that was some of the gore.
well, the funniest thing is my dad would always stay up later. Like my mom would go to bed. My dad would be kicked back in the recliner. His big thing was reading newspapers. Anybody that knew him knew. Like he would get every local paper, the Louisville paper, he'd get the Lexington paper, and he would stay up reading those damn things. So he'd have his light on, he'd be kicked back in his recliner, flipping through those pages and shit. And we could really watch whatever. He didn't give a shit ultimately, but like there would be the occasion where he'd hear something on the TV, and then He'd be like, "Oh God," something like that, and it just made the experience even more fun watching the shit.
One time I remember him saying something like, "You know what? I'm really concerned about you, Wes. Get your watching." Some shit like that. Oh God, he'd give him shit sometimes. It was hilarious. Like,
Now they both always supported even when I was a kid, like you could go to the Strand and if you had the money, it didn't matter what the fuck they were showing. You could go and see it. They didn't
that's
care.
true. And you didn't have to have a parent. Like, you just fucking went.
Right.
Yeah.
So they'd drop us, me and a buddy off. I remember one of the very early ones that I got to see, and I'll always remember this because I thought it was so killer, was Return of the Living Dead 2. And we went in there 8 years old or whatever it was by ourselves and watched Return of the Living Dead 2. Things aren't that simple now, unfortunately.
But Wes, you were talking about your dad getting a VCR and getting a lot of the different movies and stuff. See, that's what my dad did. The first VCR we got, Dad got it for the family for Christmas, but he told me and my brother he was getting a Christmas present for my mom. So he went into service merchandise. I don't know how many people had service merchandise stores around them, but he went in there and got an Emerson VCR, but he brought it out and it was in a bag and stuff. And he was like, he told me and my brother, now don't y'all bother that, And we said, well, what is it? What'd you get, Mom? Well, it's a surprise. Well, it turned out it was a surprise for the whole family. And then once we got that VCR, Dad would come home every evening from work with movies to watch. There for a while, every single evening he'd come home with, that's how I got introduced to the Sleepaway Camp 2 and 3 films.
I remember you telling that story, Dana.
Yeah, I mean, it was just a magical time. I know some people might laugh, but it was a magical time for me.
I don't think people realize, as the younger generation, how lucky they have it, because really, ultimately, with the internet, anything that you want to watch, if you know where to look, you can pull it up and watch it. Whereas,
I try to explain that to my son a lot because, like, I try to tell him stories about, like, back when I was growing up, the internet wasn't a thing. And, we didn't really have like YouTube or nothing at all to go to and to see like trailers. The only way we seen these trailers for these films was like either if we rented a video and watched, watched those trailers at the beginning of the movie, or we went to the theater. And that was the only way we knew about these movies coming out, and, I don't think I can't put it in his head to make him understand how different it was. Because like growing up, like we would go to the movies, or one of our routine things was going to like the video stores every weekend and rent movies. Whether it be like in Prestonsburg or Martin or wherever, and all we had to go on was just like go grab a tape, look at the cover, see it looks cool, turn around, look at the 3 pictures they have on the back and a brief description, and you just were taking a chance if you want to watch a good or bad movie.
I have great memories of and people probably would say, why do you have great memories of this? But Cannibal Ferox, I remember watching that with my mom and dad. And
that's such a Dana thing to say too. I got great memories of Cannibal Ferox.
No,
I got there cutting his Peter off.
But my dad was so funny whenever we finished watching that. We had to go to town for something, and Dad was he kept saying that those cannibal people were going blah 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 quah. That's what he kept going around saying all afternoon long, and he got almost to the bottom of the steps off the porch. And this is just the silly stuff my dad would do, and it would make us all laugh. He just jumped off that last step or that next to last step, and he said, "Whoa!" and just looked at us like he was expecting some kind of. Of course we
I
laughed, but
like I watched that as a kid too. Make Them Die Slowly, the big
yeah,
box
yeah,
VHS tape.
exactly. Hmm.
Some of those movies, man, it almost seemed like something that you shouldn't be watching, like just by
Yeah.
the cover. And another one that Dana shits on all the time. I don't get it. I love it. The
Oh boy.
Forest was one of those too. It was like one of the bigger box
That's a damn
clamshells,
classic right there, Dana.
and I always
Why do
loved
I
that
keep going
movie.
to sleep during it then?
I don't know. I don't know how you make it through Terror on Tour so many times and not go to sleep on it.
The guy that made the Force, I think his name was Gary Kent. I had him on as a friend on Facebook for many years. I think he passed away a couple years ago.
Yeah, he was the killer in the Forest. He was a stunt man. He
Oh,
had
okay. So he didn't have anything to do with making the film. I thought he was
no
like the director or something.
Don Jones was the director. He's passed
Oh, okay.
away as well. I think me and Dirk are going to be doing a retrospective on that because Dirk has fond childhood memories of that movie as well. And that was a movie that up until Code Red released it, I don't know if anybody knew what in the hell it was. But yeah, I remember from back in the video store days, it just has a really, you can't deny, Dana, the VHS cover of that thing's badass.
I still don't know what the hell the thing is. You that I mean, I don't even know. Like, I get so bored that I go to sleep during
I'm
it.
talking about the VHS cover. You remember what it looked like? It was cool
No,
looking.
I don't. I don't ever remember seeing the VHS and like
It's just from what I remember, it's just a bunch of trees and you said like a set of eyes
Like
with
mad eyes and a knife.
and a knife. Yeah, and
It's
it's
like
a really cool cover. Like,
Well, that probably
um,
means that the cover's cooler than the movie. That's one thing.
but
no.
I do like the movie, and I probably wouldn't have known about that movie if it weren't for I think Wes was talking about it all the time when I first started listening to the show, and another movie you always talk about around that same time when you talk about the fort was Don't Go in the Woods,
Yeah,
Yeah.
I ain't
and
more fun with Don't Go in the Woods. I can stay away from it.
that the cover that one's really cool too, but like that's just one I couldn't get into.
Dude, I've got the one sheet. Well, I got the one sheet for both of those movies because I'm a mark for both of those movies. The fucking one sheet for Don't Go in the Woods goes for like $700-800 now. I
Oh
was
my
like, what
god!
the hell? Are you kidding? So I might actually sell that at
Well,
some point.
it really like blows my mind what the value on some of these original one sheets are nowadays. Like back years ago, and I know you guys were there. It was at the Wonder Fest in Louisville, where James Karen was there, and Linnea Quigley was set up right beside of him.
Mm.
There was a vendor there that I bought a couple posters off of him, and two of them were Witchboard and Chopping Mall.
Mm-hmm.
And I sold that Chopping Mall probably about a year ago, and I think I ended up getting like almost $400 for that thing.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah, it's insane.
I don't know if it was like any like a different poster or something because it wasn't. It was the one, not the one where like it's like the metal hand holding the shopping bag, but this one was like it was like the hand was you've seen the arm, the metal arm to it is extended, and it was holding the shopping bag.
Mm.
So there's a couple different. I looked them up, and I was like, "Why in the world is this poster going for that much?" And it sold, and I sold it in no time. So it's very, very
Yeah,
shocking to me.
I think we're very lucky that we picked up a lot of this stuff before like the new age fans come along. I blame The Walking Dead for the price hike on almost everything, and it's the same sort of people that,
I
man,
agree with that.
they pay ungodly. Like I don't understand how somebody can go to these conventions and get multiple things signed by these people.
Well,
Like
I mean,
literally
I can't do that anymore.
$1,000 you could spend just like that at a horror convention now. One
Yeah, it's
afternoon.
ridiculous. Like, and that's not even the getting everybody that's there. Like, I can remember years. I could go like on a budget, maybe a few $100s or something, and you could meet everybody that was a guest at those shows. You get autographs, get pictures with them, whatever. Well, everything's individually priced now, and everything's so high. You're lucky, on that same budget that you did 15 years ago. You're lucky if you get to meet 2 or 3 people nowadays. And it's, like you said, the Walking Dead kind of caused all that. And I don't think Sean Clark would agree with that, but that's what I think as well, man, is that, Walking Dead really changed a lot of how these prices are seen at these shows now.
I fucking hate The Walking Dead too, by the way. Jesus Christ. What a shitty
Yeah,
show.
I eventually
I
did.
do now. I didn't early on, but I do now.
Yeah. The
It's
first
certainly
few seasons that Frank Darabont was involved with, I really liked those seasons, but then once he left the show, I just couldn't really get into it anymore.
Well, what it is they had gotten the housewife crowd to like it's a majority. And hey, I mean, hell, they're in it to make money, so they want to.
Yeah.
So
But-
I mean, hell, no blame. I'm not blaming them. It's just a shitty show.
No, but just part of that though. You kind of have to be thankful for it because it does, keep an interest in the horror genre, and we have, thanks to all these people that would never really been into horror years ago, but have become a part of that community because of The Walking Dead. It's helped, I guess, in a way, fund a lot of horror that we've got in the past 10 years or so.
But
That's just what I look at it.
the problem I have with it is the same thing I've been harping on for the last few years is I liked zombies and stuff like that when it was on the fringes, when you were thought of as kind of weird for liking that kind of stuff. Now you see zombies everywhere. You see them on commercials. You see them everywhere, and it's just I don't like it. And now it's all just a bunch of mainstream superficial
Bunch
nonsense.
of fucking posers.
Yeah, pretty much.
Now, to be fair, I can't say that about all newer zombie films because I did watch one. It came out a few years ago. It was I think it was like a Korean. It's called Train to Busan.
Now that one,
And
that one's good, but it's
I really, really liked that movie. And like I was talking about my father-in-law earlier, my father-in-law did not care for horror films. Like he'd call them devil movies, and especially Children of the Corn. He hated Children of the Corn. But anyway,
let's be honest. Children of the Corn's really not that good of a movie anyway.
But what surprised me is that, and he actually sit and watched the full movie with me. He watched Train to Busan with me. And I was like, of all the horror movies he could sit and watch with me, he chose that one. So that's a memory I'll always cherish because of that.
Crater, you need to go watch some zombie ass, buddy. That's what you
Zombie ass is where it's at. Yeah.
Is that a real thing?
Yeah.
That would actually be right up your alley. I was thinking of that when you mentioned Train to Busan.
I don't know. I've changed a bit since years ago because I used to champion a lot of shit, and now I think I've kind of matured now.
This is kind of like goofy, crazy shit. It's not really serious at all.
There was a show on Netflix though. I'm gonna put it over real quick. That I thought was a lot better than The Walking Dead. The first season of it for certain. It was called Black Summer, and it was only on for 2 seasons. And
I know I hope they bring that back, man, because I actually liked that. It was a killer show. It was intense. I mean, way better than what Walking Dead was. This was probably like the best zombie television series I've ever watched.
Did you hear that Cobra Kai is coming back?
when?
Well, yeah,
July,
it's starting
I think.
July, yeah, and they're separating it the last season into 3 parts. So the first part is like July, and then I think the second part's going to come on in December, and then they said the last part's going to be sometime in 2025. So don't know why they're doing that, but
I thought they were supposed to do a movie, weren't they? Did they announce that they were doing a movie?
Ralph Macchio talked about it, but I don't know if that's still a go or not.
But they're going to milk the tit of that Cobra Kai for all it's worth if they're doing it like that. Like
Well, they're
every 6
waiting.
months,
They've
they're gonna
waited
put
quite a while for this last season.
out- Yeah.
When was the? It's probably been at least 2 years, right? Since the
Well,
last one.
yeah, it's just because of that writers and actors strike and all that stuff. It's because of that. Same thing with Stranger Things last season. You know,
Let
they
me tell you. Let me tell you something though. The star of that show is Martin Cove. Man, he is, in my opinion, the best part of that whole damn show.
Here's what
Like,
I hope to
it's
God.
unbelievable because he was like out of acting pretty much, wasn't he? The dude that plays Terry Silver did a really good job too. I know he was completely out of acting for like 10 years or something.
I just hope that they don't pull a Ghostbusters and fucking like digitally put Mr. Miyagi on the last
you
episode.
you know
I
they're
can
going
totally see them doing it.
to.
Let me tell you, like, I don't like a lot of modern stuff, but of everything over the last 10 or 15 years, Cobra Kai is probably the best recent, like, show or movie or anything
Yeah,
that
I
has
love
been
it,
done,
man.
period.
I love it, but no. All jokes aside, I don't think that they'll do like a deep fake thing with Mr. Miyagi or anything. But because if they do show anything else of him from the show, it'll just be how they've done it before on the show when they just kind of throw in clips from the Karate Kid movies as like a flashback sequence, and I think that's the best way they could do it. You know, which that show really surprised me when I first started watching it, was because I thought it wasn't going to be any good whatsoever, but it was just one of those shows that I couldn't stop watching. As soon as one episode would end, I had to just like
When
see another one, see another one.
Netflix got it, though, I think they brought it up a notch. Like, it wasn't YouTube or
Yeah.
something that had it
Yeah,
first.
yeah, YouTube Red did the first 2 seasons, I think, and then it came, and then the first one that Netflix did, I think, was season 3.
Yeah. But, yeah, it's a great show.
Well,
Anybody out there hasn't checked it out.
talking
Yep.
about promoting stuff, I'm gonna promote my new stuff that I've been doing. I want to
No,
see what
you ain't, Danny. You only got to promote our show. That's all we.
I-
Here, boss. Hey.
crap.
End of the Pit, the movie.com is back online.
Oh shit!
Into the Pit, the movie.com, the site is back online. That's where you can get copies. Anybody that wants it now, not just limited to patrons.
There you go.
Go, Dana.
Perfect. I'll let y'all promote stuff, but this is my stream, Uncle Bill. I'll talk about my damn.
Also, I've got copies of this, Dana. You interested in this cassette tape?
How
of
much?
Blood Harvest.
Oh, yeah, she'll buy that one.
$85.
$85.
No way.
Look at what you're going for on eBay. That's a hell of a price. $85.
That's a hell of a
I'm
deal.
afraid I'm
bro.
gonna have to say no.
This is the full soundtrack, though, Dana. This isn't just the song. This is the
Yeah, I know.
whole shebang. Look at that now.
I'm gonna have to look that up. I don't believe that.
Oh man. But I want to talk about my candles and my tea that I'm going to be making.
You're going to be doing that fart candle that I told you about? You should try
I
to.
don't know. What do you want me to do? Have Steve fart in a jar or something?
Let me tell you what you can
Yeah,
do. Because I've been known to crack farts on live streams. You can have my own brand, CK's fart candle.
All right. We could probably sell them too, and me and Wes would split the profits.
Yeah.
I'm waiting on Steve's dry cereal candle. That's gonna be one. I immediately buy that one. It just smells like dry Captain Crunch or something.
Dry Fruit Loops.
Yeah.
But no, I am making several different kinds of candles. We've got a cherry cola scented candle that's Christine's Fury.
Cherry
I've
cola.
got, yep. I have, what else do I have here?
Well, what's the one, the Motel Hell one you did?
The Motel Hell one is Farmer Vincent's Critter Fritter. And it's bacon scented because
Farmer Vincent's Critter Flitter. Is that what you said?
fritter.
Oh. Sorry.
Oh, it's late, so Wes is hearing me wrong. I've got Freddy's Nightmare that's marshmallow scented because that's Freddy Krueger's nightmare. He
Did
got
you
both.
pre-order the Nightmare on Elm Street 4K, Dana?
Nope, I haven't yet.
I ain't
Freddy's
pre-ordering it.
not there.
Fuck them, boy. $60 for a 4K. They can go shit
Is
and fall
that,
back
is
in
that
it.
how much it
Continue.
is?
Yes. I couldn't believe it. I was like, fuck you, Warner Brothers. Not even putting new
Warner
extras
Brothers
on it.
releasing that for $60.
$60 for the Steelbook, yeah.
Ain't no way.
Good Lord, that's like some. Who was it that released Four Flies on Gray Velvet for like
That's
$60?
Severan's old shitty ass. Yeah.
Well, I ended up breaking down and getting one of those, but Dirk picked it up for me at the convention, so I paid him for it instead of paying, technically paying one of these boutique.
I can't do it, Dana. I can't do it.
Is anybody interested in my tea containers that I've got made up already, or have y'all already seen them on Facebook?
I hate
I-
tea, Dana. I ain't gonna lie. I've never drunk tea in my life.
You haven't drunk the tea that I'm going to be creating. So.
What?
Those labels
Has it got THC in it? I might drink it.
Listen, we're supposed to be helping her sell this. You just
I'm just being honest. I mean, you could sell if people love tea. I'm sure this is
Wes is
amazing
going to
tea.
say, don't buy
Yeah.
tea from Dana.
Candace got a whole cabinet full of boxes of tea over here in her kitchen.
This
Now, are we
tea's so
talking-
good.
Is this iced tea? Is this?
Well, you
No, like chamomile tea
could
and
make
stuff like
iced
that.
tea if you wanted to, I
That's
guess.
even worse, boys. I could probably drink iced tea if
Look,
somebody forced
You
me.
need to try to help sell this. This tea's so good.
I
it
am
makes
going
you
to try to
fucking-
help sell it.
it'll
Show
make
them off,
you-
our Dana.
Okay, so we've got England's elderberry spice tea.
Killer as fuck.
That is actually pretty cool.
Steve made fun of this. This is like AI Robert England, and he's
That's
got
badass.
tea time.
Solo yourself, our Dana, so everybody can see it a little bit better.
Okay.
You know how to do that.
Let's see if I can remember how to do this.
Yeah, the quality on those are really good, Dana. That printer you got's awesome.
All right, so can everybody see that better now? I'm trying to keep the glare off of that.
That looks like Gaddy Lee from Rush.
Well, okay. Well, that's one. Let's see what else we've got. Maniac Mint. There's AI Joe Spinell having his tea.
Or, yeah,
Yeah.
that does look like Joe Spinell mixed with like Billy Joel.
I didn't think about Billy Joe.
It
Joe
kind of does now that you mention that, yeah.
We've got Leatherface's lemongrass.
I love that. You
looks
enjoyed
like-
that one.
That's a better Leatherface mask that was in that last Texas Chainsaw movie for
Oh,
sure.
100% is.
We've got Angela's honey bee
That's
tea.
badass right there. Yeah.
That's going to be honeysuckle tea. We've got Herbert's Folly.
Yeah, that's
I
my
like-
favorite one.
It's going to
I
be
think I like
chocolate
that
mint.
one. I like that one the best.
So, if you order this tea and you don't like tea, heck, you could keep the container and let somebody else in your family have the tea that likes the tea. You
Yeah.
want to do it that way.
Keep your weed stash in there.
That's true.
Put
Yeah,
you in it. That tea's so good, Dana, it'll blow your vulva out. That's the tagline.
I don't know if I need that tagline, but I'm going to get myself off of this solo layout here.
You don't like it as a tagline? I think that'd be killer.
Dana, am I seeing this right? That you've been on this stream for 3 hours and 33 minutes?
Yeah,
God, I'd
had
had to have went and shit by that point. I'm pretty sure.
I did have to. I had to go to the restroom whenever before I got my food in. You know, so.
Was it a colon cleanser? That's my favorite.
Yeah,
Is
I
that
ain't kinda-
early morning colon cleanser, boys. That's the best.
I'm surprised, Dana, though, because especially after eating all that Long John Silver's.
Yeah, it's probably good.
It'll go straight through you.
Boys,
Grease.
I ain't never eaten Long John Silver's ever again. No.
Same here, buddy.
Yeah.
Let me tell you something. I was on that Wegovy shot, last summer, which I'm trying to get back on it now. It's like a weight loss thing. And I made the mistake of eating a piece of fish from Long John Silver's while I was on that shot. Dude, it was coming out of both ends the entire fucking night. I lost 10 pounds in 2 days.
God.
Because I was puking and shitting uncontrollably from both ends.
That's
Uncontrollably. And I vowed that.
I'm sorry. I just think about you like a fucking sprinkler or something just spinning.
I vowed that night. I said, don't even look at Long John Silver's. I am never eating that ever again.
I ain't never had that bad of experience. That sounds unnatural to me. I think somebody just poisoned your food.
No, it was that. It was that. It was kind of because it was that shot.
Oh God!
That if you eat the wrong stuff, like with me, it's anything fried. Some people, if it's something like sweets and stuff like that, it'll fuck their stomach up. But yeah, it was that shot. That's what it was.
Listen, though, on a serious note, I gotta get the fuck off here.
I do too.
too.
I gotta go shit. No, I'm just kidding. I'm going to bed.
So I'll,
But I do want to say I had a lot of fun with you three guys on here and everybody in the chat. We've had a good group here, and we talked about the Stephen King movies and everything in between. I think.
Tell Steve that you had fun with 3 guys last night when you talked to him in the morning.
Just because he's been doing and saying things that's been pissing me off, so I probably will.
All right, bulls. It's been fun. I ain't been on Dana's stream in a while, so I figured I need to make an appearance. I'm never invited like Uncle Bill is, so I know how it is.
that's
Uncle
right.
Bill invited
Don't give
himself,
up.
and I
You
don't
all-
mind.
I'm gonna have to invite myself then whenever I'm free.
There you go. Invite yourself, and I'll get you on here. But while I've got you two on here, before you go, if I do another Terror on Tour watch along, will y'all join in with me on that? I bet Chris will.
Yeah, I've never seen it, so I'm interested.
Well, here's the thing: if we do it on a weekend, late on a Sunday would work better for me.
Okay, so would that work for Uncle Bill, Chris?
I
will
believe
that
I'd
work?
rather
Yeah, it's
Jim.
fine. I'm down whenever, as long as it's after 6 o'clock in the evening. I'm good.
Are you talking about, Wes? Are you talking like after 10 or starting at 10? Or
9 or 10 be all
9 or
right.
10? Okay.
I can't do it because I'm allergic to that movie. I'm sorry.
Bullshit.
I have allergic reaction to a bunch of damn shitty
Hey,
old clowns.
Speaking of allergic reaction, and I know we're trying to get off here, Dana. Sorry, but that reminds me. I don't know if you and Aaron know this story or not, Wes. I think Dana does. I'm pretty sure if Candace has probably told her, I've told her one. But you all realize that I about died last year because I did not realize that I was allergic to wasp stings, and one stung me in the back of the head twice in a row when I was in the carport last summer. And I didn't really think nothing of it the first couple minutes, and it was just like it hurt like hell. And then I went and like jumped in the shower trying to see if because I started feeling like my body was numbing up. And Candace was just sitting there, and she didn't know it. She just, like, the way I was acting, I guess, was funny to her because she was just laughing her ass off. And and she just, like,
that wasp stung the fuck out of me, boy.
But then, like, I felt like I was, like, getting ready to pass out. And, like, I started throwing up. And she was like, oh, my God, something's really wrong with you. So she's, like, rushed me to the hospital. And, like, on the way to the hospital, like, we just about a couple minutes away, thankfully. She would look over me, she said, and like my face was like swelling up, and she said I looked like Hunchback of Notre Dame, Lon Chaney from the 20s or something. She's like, I looked like a movie monster. I was so swelled up. And then they had to like give me an EpiPen shot to my leg and everything, and because I couldn't breathe. And that nurse basically said, she said, you got here at the right time, because if you was a few minutes later, she said, I probably would have been dead.
Jesus.
And So now I carry an EpiPen around with me, boys.
So I take it you'd never been stung by a wasp before or anything.
Well, my mom said I was once before, but it was like when I was 3 years old, and like they said I was swelling up then, and they rushed me to the hospital. But anything after that, I guess not. That's some luck though to go that long without being stung again.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
yeah,
Yeah, I
it's
mean,
scary.
it's crazy. I mean, it's crazy how something like that can just out of nowhere.
Yeah,
Well,
man.
fuck, did I ever tell you the story about the time we were at Red Lobster with Savannah and she didn't know she was allergic to fucking seafood?
I think
Oh,
you
Lord.
told me about it. Yeah.
So we're sitting there eating, and she's like, "Well, what the hell did she order? It was shrimp or something like that." And she's like, "My tongue's getting numb." I'm like, "What the hell are you talking about? Like your tongue's getting numb?" She's like, "I
Mm.
can't. I'm starting not to be able to feel my tongue." And then she's like, "Now I'm starting not to be able to feel like my neck right through here." And I'm like, "We gotta get some
Uh-oh.
fucking Benadryl or something." Like, and I think that's what we did. I think we just got some like Benadryl. I don't know like how much she ate of it before that happened. Probably not a whole hell of a lot, like to be honest. And I think she just took some fucking Benadryl and she was fine. But like every single time, if she like eats anything that has even touched seafood whatsoever, like her whole throat will start to get numb and like close off.
That's
So
not good.
I love shellfish, though. I'm glad I'm not allergic to it. That's
it's
like some of my
anything though.
favorite
It's
shit.
fish, shrimp, shellfish, anything like that.
Yeah, and you said she didn't know that she was allergic to that stuff.
She had no idea. Oh,
Man, I tell you, that's how it was. I had no idea I was allergic to be getting stung by a wasp, but when you realize that it's a very intense feeling, like to be going through all that swelling and just losing your short of breath. Oh man, I don't wish that on anybody.
No. I mean, one thing that I can say, though, for anybody out there with any ailment, if you're trying to recover from anything, one of the best things that you could get, make you feel better, is a copy of End of the Pit on DVD.
Oh my gosh, that is
End
not
of the
what I
Pit,
thought.
the
I was
movie.
wondering where that was going.
.com. The site is back up, boys.
Oh,
we have
Jesus
the legacy site, endofthepitthemovie.com, and we're adding more stuff to it. I was just sent the original electronic press kit. That'll be on there tomorrow. Yes, there was an EPK, Uncle Bill. We're sort of a big deal. Look at that, boys.
I knew you was going to do that. Either that or promote the spot on the Patreon for the baller and shot call.
Well, you said it there. If anybody,
Here you go.
Dead Pit on Patreon.com. What do the baller and shot caller get on that, Uncle Bill?
You get the ability to program the whole show. Really, you get to tell us what we watch. So if you want us to review something or do a commentary or anything like that, we have to do it because you're giving us money and we're a little.
Boy, I need to.
And you have access to thousands upon thousands of hours of content dating all the way back to 2005.
Right. You get access to the Dead Pit hidden vault, which is buried underneath Martin Cemetery. So
that's right.
So how much does this great package cost, Wes?
The baller and shot caller package, which means you can book, like if you want us to do a commentary, if you have a show topic, whatever, it's $50 per month. And we have 4 spots. 1 is open.
So buy it now. Buy it often.
Get on over
there.
I would, but Steve would probably kill me.
Just don't tell Steve, Dana. It'd be okay. Just don't tell him.
He finds out everything. Like,
look, Dana, you spend that on one fucking 4K like a month.
He's scrutinizing my packages from Amazon. If he thinks they're too large, they got.
You know, if he scrutinized my package, what I'd do would be like.
I just had this image of Steve with a fucking scale weighing all the packages.
Scrutinizing packages, Steve.
He came carrying about three, not gigantic boxes back here one day when I was at the computer desk. He said, he had this frown on his face. He said, "Don't you think this is too many packages be getting from Amazon?" I said, "No, I don't."
You know what I'd tell him, Dana, every time he goes on about you wasting money on shit or whatever he does? Say, hey, motherfucker, didn't you buy that old stupid Bollywood set? How many times have you watched it? Shut your mouth.
I
Shut.
brought that up to him. I said, Steve, you buy whatever you want, and I don't say a word.
Maybe you should start talking, making fun of him, Dana. Maybe that'd work. Maybe he'd shut up.
Yeah, I'm sure it'll help.
He'd shut up by, getting on to you all the time.
But
But
since we're promoting stuff, I guess I could promote the podcast that me and Candace are doing now, the Death by Stereo podcast. So we have a couple different series that we're currently running on the channel right now, and the first one is called Video Dead. So it's basically the premise of that is that we're watching these music videos that they're non-horror related artists, but their music videos have like a horror element to them. The first one we did was I can't remember the name. Candace put it in the chat if she hears this, but it was an Eddie Money song. It's in the video. He's like Dracula, and I can't think of what the name of that song. But we did. That was our first episode, and I had never seen that video before, but I always knew the song. And then the second one we just did, which Dana was on, that second one we just did, which is Last Dance with Mary Jane, and if you've never seen a video of that, it does have like horror elements, kind of like almost like a Reanimator or Dr. Frankenstein type vibe. So we just kind of like, do a watch along with that, kind of like how Dana or anybody else does with like movies and stuff. But so they're only just a few minutes doing the watch along, and then we just kind of talk about them. We try to keep those videos about like anywhere from like 30 to 45 minutes, where we're just talking about stuff. And then the second series that we just debuted, the first episode of it this past Friday, is called Terror Vision, where we're like just watching episodes of classic TV shows, and we cover like 3 episodes per show, and or on each episode. Like this first one we're doing the monsters right now. And we just did covered 3 of our favorite episodes, and we'll be doing another one of those until we maybe do like 20 episodes or something. So it'll be over the course of maybe like a 2-month type series. They're going to be releasing every Friday. So I think me and her's going to record another one here in the next couple of days for this coming Friday. So yeah, anybody that likes that kind of stuff, go check those out.
That all sounds
Cool.
good. And Uncle Bill, you got anything you want to promote that's that you're doing either with CK or doing with other people?
You're
Rainbow?
going to be a guest on somebody else's
Well, I don't
YouTube,
know
ain't
when
you?
the fuck he's gonna put that up. To be honest, like
Well, I guess just mention
I
it. I don't
did,
know either.
I have no idea. He may never put it up, but I did record like a video about conventions with Planet CHH, and I don't know when he's gonna Christian Hannah. I don't know when he's gonna put that up or anything, or I would tell you, but it's gonna be up. I'm assuming at some point. And then this Sunday we got Umberto Lenzi on the tour of Italy coming back. So
You need somebody to be on there.
yeah, I know you love those films, Dana. I'm gonna do. I don't know which ones I'm gonna do. I'm gonna do Almost Human. I know that's gonna be one of them.
Okay.
And of course, one of the cannibal films, probably like.
Did he do any zombie movies since it is?
I'm sure he did.
Well, we'll do one of those.
He did every like genre at some point in time or another.
Well, if you've got an open spot on there, Uncle Bill, I'll be on there.
Who
I
was
got
the
no
one
idea.
that did Nightmare City? Who did that one?
That was Lindsay, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So Nightmare City is like it is kind of a zombie movie. It's like an infected person's movie.
I always thought so. I always kind of put it
Yeah.
in that category.
That's a good one too, though. We might do that one as well. But I don't know. Nobody's really said anything. Like I've got to usually like go on there and ask for a roll call who's going to be on it to figure out. So yeah,
Well,
whoever wants to can be.
I'll be on there with you. I just
Well,
don't like
anything that you do, Uncle Bill, is not going to live up to that black exploitation string that y'all did.
God, ain't that the truth?
I
Yeah.
need to watch
Speaking
that one.
speaking of which, I guess I can hop this.
No.
Our buddy Matt, and we were talking about this on the show. And I'm going to try to put together some sort of video intro and make it like a regular intro of our live streams. He did a Dead Pit version of like one of those Shaft songs or something like that we talked about. And it's really fucking good. Like, I can't wait for people to hear it. So we're going to try to do like a...
He really impresses me, dude. Like he's a relatively young guy, but he's very knowledgeable for his age.
Oh yeah.
With all that stuff. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that I've heard him talk about that I didn't even know. So that's really impressive.
He's definitely a student of the game, that's for sure.
But
Let's get the hell out of here, boys.
Yeah,
Let's go. It's almost 4 hours. Dana's got to go poop.
No, I gotta go pee though.
I got to go to bed.
Well, I gotta
Y'all
go.
caused me to miss most of Raw tonight, boys. God.
Oh, well.
The hell's gotten into you all making me do that?
But I want to thank Chris and Wes and Uncle Bill and everybody in the chat for being in here tonight. It's been a fun stream. I hope we can do this again sometime soon. And be sure to tune in for Everybody Wants England tomorrow night. And Chris, if you want to be on, I'll send you the link.
Which one are you doing tomorrow?
Well, if I can find my paper, I may have to get back to you with that, Chris.
Yeah, you can let me know.
I think. Well, hold on a second. I think I'm going to be doing Perfect Target, Wishmaster, and Meet the Deedles.
Okay, yeah, I'll be on that one.
Okay. So, and anybody else who wants to come on and talk about Robert Englund films, you can do so.
I love Wishmaster, so I have to talk about that one.
Oh yeah, you should do Ghost House, Uncle Bill.
Well, I actually like Eyeball a lot too. I know it's crazy.
Eyeball's good, yeah.
The title of it and everything, but that's actually a killer giallo.
Mm-hmm. But we're gonna get out of here before everybody falls asleep and all that, or we get in trouble with our significant others for being on here too long.
Yeah, it's not like that shit.
Mine's in her sleep, so she don't give a shit.
Yeah, mine's not even home right now, so yeah.
So we'll see everybody next time. Everybody have a good night. And I just want to remind everybody to be kind to one another and blaze that trail. I'm going to make a t-shirt out of that. Not blaze the trail that way. Okay, guys, we're out of here.
Bye.
See you next time.
Toodaloo, everybody.